Tonight we are standing beneath a sky that has never heard the sound of thunder. The stars above you seem strangely distant. The sea below lies calm and black. No lightning flashes across the horizon. No mighty ruler sits upon a golden throne above the clouds. The world feels unfinished, as if creation itself is holding its breath. So before we continue tonight's journey, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy exploring these ancient stories together. And if you feel inclined, share your location and local time in the comments. It is always comforting to know where fellow travelers are listening from as we wander through these ancient worlds together. Tonight you enter a forgotten age, an age before Olympus, an age before heroes, an age before Zeus. Most people remember Zeus as king of the gods. They remember the thunderbolt in his hand. They remember the eagles circling high above mountain peaks. They remember the countless myths that spread his name across the ancient Mediterranean. Yet few pause to wonder about the mystery that came before him. What kind of world existed before Zeus ruled the heavens? And perhaps more importantly, what kind of being was Zeus before he became king? The answers lie hidden in a time that ancient storytellers themselves described as distant and shadowed. Even the Greeks, who honored Zeus with magnificent temples and sacred festivals, often spoke of earlier ages with uncertainty. Fragments survived, songs survived, sacred traditions survived, but much was already lost. As you begin this journey, you find yourself standing in that lost world. The air smells of salt and wet stone. Sea winds move softly through dark cypress trees. Faraway waves strike ancient cliffs whose names have long been forgotten. Above, countless stars shine with cold silver light. And somewhere beyond those stars, destiny is already beginning to move. Not quickly, not loudly, but steadily. For in this age, the universe is ruled by a king, unlike any who would come after him. His name is Cronus. Cronus. You hear his name whispered in the darkness, sometimes with reverence, sometimes with fear. The stories describe him as powerful beyond imagination. A titan, a ruler of heaven and earth, a being who defeated his own father and seized control of creation. Yet there is something strange about Cronus, something deeply unsettling. He possesses everything he once desired: power, authority, victory, an empire stretching across the entire cosmos. Yet he cannot rest. He cannot trust. He cannot feel secure because of a prophecy. Ancient myths often begin with prophecies, warnings spoken long before their consequences arrive. The Greeks understood something about human nature. They knew that people often fear the future more than the present, and no fear is greater than the fear of losing what one already possesses. One night, according to ancient tradition, a terrible prediction reaches Cronus. The details vary depending on the storyteller. Some researchers believe multiple versions existed across different regions of Greece. Yet the core warning remains remarkably consistent. One day, one of his own children will overthrow him. The words settle over the king like a storm cloud. At first, nothing changes. The stars continue their slow movement overhead. The rivers continue flowing toward the sea. Sacred fires continue burning in distant shrines. Yet inside Cronus, something begins to grow. Suspicion, fear, the kind of fear that transforms ordinary caution into obsession. You watch as prophecy begins shaping reality, not because it has happened, but because people believe it might happen. This is one of the oldest themes in mythology, and perhaps one of the most human. The attempt to avoid destiny often becomes the very thing that creates it. Cronus does not yet understand this. Few ever do. Instead, he becomes determined to stop the future before it arrives. The consequences will echo across generations. Yet at this moment, none of that is visible. The world remains quiet. The sky remains still. You walk through this ancient age and sense a strange tension beneath the surface. The mountains seem to be waiting. The forests seem to be listening. Even the sea appears unusually calm. Many ancient poets loved this image, the silence before a storm. Not because storms arrive suddenly, but because nature often provides warnings, small signs, subtle changes, hints that something larger approaches. As you travel farther through the lost age, you encounter stories of omens, a sacred eagle flying where none had flown before, unusual stars appearing above the horizon, dreams shared by priests and prophets. The meanings remain uncertain. Ancient traditions disagree. Some believed these signs announced the coming of a savior. Others believed they foretold unimaginable destruction. Perhaps both interpretations contain some truth, because the child destined to become Zeus would eventually bring both creation and chaos, order and conflict. protection and suffering. Like many figures remembered across mythology, he would never be entirely one thing or another. He would be complicated, powerful, flawed, and deeply shaped by the world into which he would be born. But that birth has not happened yet. For now, the future king exists only as possibility, a thread not yet woven, a name not yet spoken. You continue walking beneath the stars. The night air grows cooler. Moonlight spills across rocky hillsides covered with olive trees. Far below, small settlements cling to coastlines where fishermen sleep beside gently rocking boats. The smell of wood smoke drifts upward from distant fires. Life continues peacefully. Most mortals know nothing of prophecies, nothing of cosmic struggles, nothing of destinies moving beyond their sight. Yet their lives are already connected to events they cannot imagine. The Greeks often viewed fate this way: invisible, patient, working quietly beneath ordinary existence. Long before heroes hear their first prophecy, long before kings claim their crowns, long before wars begin, destiny is already moving. And somewhere beyond the horizon, another warning is waiting. A warning that will change everything. Because Cronus' fear is growing stronger, and fear rarely remains still. Soon the king of the cosmos will make a choice meant to prevent prophecy, a choice that will instead give prophecy its first opportunity. The lost age remains peaceful for now. The stars continue shining. The sea continues breathing against the shore. The sacred fires continue flickering in the darkness. But beyond the edge of sight, fate is already preparing its next move. And in the silence before the thunder, the story of Zeus is about to begin. The night feels different now, not because the stars have changed, not because the sea has become rough, but because fear has finally become action. You stand within the vast halls of the Titans where torchlight flickers against immense stone walls. Shadows stretch across the floor like living things. The air smells of burning oil and cold marble. Here in the heart of the world, Cronus sits upon his throne. Outwardly, he appears unchanged, powerful, victorious, secure. Yet inside him, the prophecy continues to grow, like a thorn buried beneath the skin. The warning has never truly left him. One of his children will overthrow him. One day, everything he possesses will belong to another. And so he begins watching the future with suspicion. You notice how often fear distorts judgment. The Greeks understood this well. Many of their myths are not simply stories about monsters or gods. They are stories about emotions. Fear, pride, jealousy, love. Each emotion has consequences. Each choice creates another. And Cronus is about to make one of the most terrible choices in mythology. His wife, the Titaness Rhea, gives birth to their first child. Rhea, you can almost imagine the scene. A sacred chamber illuminated by firelight, the scent of incense drifting through the air. Priests whispering blessings, the cries of a newborn echoing across stone walls. For a brief moment, joy enters the palace. Then fear arrives. The child is taken, and Cronus swallows the infant whole. The act feels shocking even within mythology. Ancient listeners likely felt the same horror. Yet the image carried symbolic meaning. Some scholars believe it represented time consuming all things. Others see the story as a warning about power corrupted by fear. Whatever the interpretation, the result is the same. A father destroys what he cannot control. You watch the tragedy repeat again and again. A second child, then a third, then a fourth, then a fifth. Each newborn enters the world only to disappear into darkness. The palace grows quieter with every loss. Rhea's grief deepens. The halls become colder. Even the sacred fires seem diminished. Yet Cronus remains convinced he is protecting himself. That is often the cruel nature of fear. It disguises itself as necessity. You stand beside Rhea as years pass. Ancient traditions describe her sorrow in different ways. Some portray her as patient, others as quietly furious. But nearly all agree on one thing: she never forgets her children. Each missing son, each missing daughter, each life stolen before it could truly begin. And eventually grief becomes determination. One evening, as moonlight washes across distant mountains, Rhea seeks guidance. The details vary, depending on the version of the myth. Some say she travels to sacred places. Others claim she speaks directly with ancient powers older than the Titans themselves. Another interpretation survives in which the earth itself responds to her suffering. Whatever happened, a plan emerges. A dangerous plan, a final chance. For Rhea is carrying another child. The sixth, the last. And strange signs begin appearing across the world. A sacred fire burns unusually bright. Birds alter their migration paths. Priests report unusual dreams. In one tradition, shepherds speak of stars moving in unfamiliar patterns. No one agrees exactly what these omens meant. Historians continue to debate whether such stories were later additions. Yet ancient audiences would have understood their purpose. Nature itself seemed aware that something extraordinary approached. You walk through valleys filled with olive groves. You climb hills where sea winds carry the scent of salt. Everywhere you go, there is a feeling of anticipation, as if the world is waiting. And then the child is born. Not within the palace, not beneath the eyes of Cronus, but far away, hidden, protected. The island of Crete rises from the sea like a dream. Crete. Moonlight touches rugged cliffs. Waves crash against rocky shores. Mountain peaks stand beneath endless stars. It is here, according to the most famous tradition, that Rhea secretly brings her child into the world. You stand outside a cave as the night wind moves softly through nearby trees. The scent of earth and stone fills the air. Inside, a newborn opens his eyes for the first time. Zeus. Zeus. Not king. Not ruler. Not master of thunder. Simply a child. Small. Vulnerable. Dependent upon others. This is an important moment often overlooked. Because mythology tends to remember greatness. Yet every great figure begins somewhere. Every ruler was once helpless. Every legend once unknown. Zeus enters the world carrying immense destiny. Yet he cannot understand any of it. Outside the cave, his mother prepares to leave. The choice cannot have been easy. To save him, she must separate from him. To protect him, she must disappear. Love often demands sacrifice. This truth appears repeatedly throughout Greek mythology. And here it shapes the future itself. Rhea wraps a stone in cloth. The deception is simple, perhaps too simple. Yet fear has already weakened Cronus's judgment. When she returns, she presents the wrapped bundle. Cronus takes it without question and swallows it. The prophecy remains alive, though he does not know it. Far away on Crete, the hidden child survives. Ancient storytellers filled these years with wonder. Some claimed divine nymphs cared for him. Others described sacred guardians protecting the cave. One famous tradition tells of warriors clashing their weapons together whenever the infant cried. The noise concealed his presence from listening ears. Whether taken literally or symbolically, the image is memorable. A child so important that entire communities unite to protect him. A future so dangerous that secrecy becomes essential. You imagine the cave at night. The warmth of firelight dancing against stone. The scent of fresh milk. The sound of distant waves. Outside, stars drift silently across the heavens. Inside, the child sleeps, unaware of the world waiting beyond the cave entrance. Unaware that his brothers and sisters remain trapped. Unaware that his father fears him more than any enemy. Perhaps this innocence is what makes the story powerful. For now, Zeus is untouched by ambition, untouched by conflict, untouched by power. The thunderbolt is still far away. The throne is still far away. Even the prophecy remains distant. He is only a child hidden from fate, or so it seems. Yet fate has a strange relationship with hiding. Again and again, myths suggest that destiny finds what is meant for it, no matter how carefully secrets are kept, no matter how far someone travels, no matter how many walls are built. The future waits patiently. As the years begin to pass, Zeus grows beneath the protection of mountains and stars. His body becomes stronger. His mind becomes sharper. And mysterious dreams begin appearing in the stories surrounding his childhood. Dreams of storms. Dreams of eagles. Dreams of a sky not yet his. The meanings remain uncertain. Perhaps they were signs. Perhaps they were later inventions. No one can know for certain. But one truth remains clear. The child hidden from fate is slowly becoming the very force fate intended. And high above the sleeping world beyond mortal sight, another thread of destiny has already begun to tighten. The child survives. In the world of Greek mythology, that simple fact is remarkable enough. Many heroes begin life in danger. Many gods face threats before they ever understand them. Yet Zeus's childhood remains unusual even among such stories. Because he grows not in a palace, not among kings, not surrounded by servants and wealth. Instead, you find him in a landscape shaped by windstone and sky. The island of Crete rises from the sea like an ancient guardian. Its mountains catch the first light of dawn. Its caves descend into cool darkness. Its forests whisper beneath silver moonlight. Far from the throne of Cronus, the hidden child enters the years that will shape everything he later becomes. You walk through those mountains beside him. Morning mist drifts between rocky slopes. The scent of wild herbs fills the air. Bees move among flowers growing from cracks in the stone. The world feels alive, not crowded, not controlled, alive. Ancient traditions tell different stories about who cared for Zeus during these years. Some speak of divine nymphs. Others describe sacred spirits connected to springs, trees, and caves. A few versions preserve older local traditions whose details have faded with time. Historians continue to debate which stories emerged first, yet all agree on one essential point. Zeus survives because others choose to protect him. This lesson will remain important throughout his life. No ruler truly rises alone. The Greeks often understood greatness as something shared. Heroes needed companions. Kings needed allies. Even gods depended upon loyalty. Long before Zeus commands armies, he learns the value of trust. The cave that shelters him becomes his first home. You step inside. Cool air brushes against your skin. Water drips slowly from stone ceilings. Small fires provide warmth during cold nights. The scent of smoke lingers among shadows. Outside storms sometimes sweep across the mountains. Rain strikes the rocks. Thunder echoes through distant valleys. The young Zeus listens. Perhaps no one yet realizes how closely his future will become linked to those sounds. Or perhaps some do. Certain traditions describe unusual omens surrounding his childhood. An eagle appearing repeatedly near the cave. Lightning striking distant peaks without causing damage. Sacred animals behaving strangely. Ancient storytellers loved such details, not because they proved destiny, but because they suggested destiny was already watching. You watch Zeus grow year by year. He becomes curious, restless, observant. The stories rarely portray him as passive. Even as a child, he wants to understand the world around him. Why do storms gather? Why do stars move? Why do mountains stand while rivers flow? Such questions appear again and again in mythological biographies. Great figures rarely accept the world exactly as they find it. They seek something beyond it. Zeus is no different. Yet another influence shapes him even more deeply. Loneliness. The child knows he is hidden. Perhaps not at first, but eventually the truth becomes impossible to ignore. There are questions no one wishes to answer. Conversations that stop when he approaches. Silences that linger too long. Children notice more than adults often realize, and Zeus begins sensing that something about his life is unusual. The Greeks understood loneliness well. Their myths frequently portray powerful figures separated from ordinary experience, sometimes by destiny, sometimes by responsibility, sometimes by fear. For Zeus, the separation begins early. He belongs nowhere completely. Not among mortals, not among titans, not yet among gods. He lives between worlds. This feeling shapes him. You see it in the stories that survive. He develops independence, confidence, a willingness to act when uncertainty remains. These qualities later help him challenge Cronus, but they also create future difficulties. For those who learn to rely upon themselves often struggle to trust others completely. Far away beyond the sea, Cronus continues ruling the cosmos. The prophecy remains alive in his thoughts. Though years have passed, fear has not faded. If anything, it has deepened. Every unusual event becomes suspicious. Every strange dream becomes a warning. Every rumor becomes a potential threat. The king has achieved absolute power. Yet absolute power brings no peace. This contrast slowly becomes one of the central themes of the story. Cronus possesses control. Zeus possesses freedom. Which is more valuable? The answer remains unclear. For now, one evening, according to certain traditions, a remarkable dream visits the hidden child. Dreams carried great significance in the ancient world. Many Greeks believed gods communicated through them. Others viewed them as glimpses of possible futures. The interpretation varied. The mystery remained. And mystery often mattered more than certainty. You lie beneath a sky crowded with stars. The night is cool. Sea winds move softly across the mountains. Nearby sacred fires flicker against stone walls. The young Zeus sleeps and dreams. In the dream, he stands atop a mountain. Clouds swirl below him. Above the heavens stretch endlessly. Then he sees a great tree. Its roots descend into darkness. Its branches reach toward the stars. The tree begins splitting apart. One half falls. The other remains standing. A voice speaks. Not loudly, not clearly, only enough to leave a question. What falls must someday rise. What rises must someday fall. Then the dream ends. Different storytellers offered different interpretations. Some believed it predicted Cronus's downfall. Others suggested it reflected a deeper cycle. The endless replacement of one generation by another. Even today, scholars continue debating the symbolism. But perhaps the most important detail is emotional rather than prophetic. For the first time, Zeus begins sensing that his future extends beyond the mountains, beyond the cave, beyond the island itself. Destiny feels closer, not yet visible, but approaching. As adolescence arrives, his strength grows rapidly. Ancient myths often emphasize physical power, yet they also celebrate intelligence, cleverness, adaptability, the ability to recognize opportunities. Zeus develops all three. You see hints of the future king emerging, not because he dominates others, because others naturally follow him. Leadership often begins this way, not through commands, through presence. People listen, people trust, people gather. The young Zeus inspires confidence without fully understanding why. Still, uncertainty remains. He knows little about his family, little about his origins, little about the forces shaping his life, and unanswered questions can become powerful motivations, especially for those destined to change the world. One night, another omen appears. A storm forms over the sea. Dark clouds gather. Lightning flashes far beyond the horizon. Yet no rain falls. The storm remains distant, watching, waiting. The elders who protect Zeus exchange worried glances. Some traditions claim they recognize the sign immediately. Others suggest they merely sense change approaching. Whatever the truth, one realization becomes unavoidable. The hidden years are ending. The child can no longer remain hidden forever. Soon he will learn who he truly is. Soon he will discover what happened to his brothers and sisters. Soon he will understand why fear shaped the life of a king. And soon, for the first time, he will face a choice that destiny cannot make for him. Because power may be inherited, but purpose must be chosen. Far beyond Crete, beneath the vast and silent heavens, the first path toward Cronus has already begun to open. The years of hiding are drawing to an end. You feel it in the air. The mountains of Crete seem smaller now, not because they have changed, but because Zeus has. The child who once slept beside sacred fires has become a young god, standing at the edge of adulthood. His shoulders have broadened. His voice has deepened. His confidence has grown, yet the greatest change is invisible. Questions that once drifted through his thoughts now demand answers. Who am I? Why was I hidden? What secret are others afraid to tell me? The ancient world around him remains beautiful. Morning sunlight spills across rocky hillsides. Olive trees shimmer beneath warm winds. White waves break against distant shores. Birds circle high above sea cliffs. But beauty can no longer distract him. The mystery of his life has become impossible to ignore. And mysteries, when left unanswered, often become destinies. One evening, after the heat of day has faded, Zeus climbs a mountain overlooking the sea. The air feels cool against his skin. The scent of wild thyme drifts through the darkness. Far below, moonlight dances upon the water. Above, countless stars fill the heavens. The scene is peaceful, yet something unusual happens. A shooting star burns across the sky, then another, and another. Ancient Greeks often viewed such signs with awe. Some believed they carried messages from divine powers. Others thought they revealed cracks within fate itself. No one knew for certain. That uncertainty gave them power. The young Zeus watches in silence, and for reasons he cannot fully explain, he feels that change is coming. The next day, the truth finally arrives. Different traditions preserve different versions of the moment. Some claim Rhea herself returns. Others describe ancient spirits revealing the secret. A few suggest the truth emerged gradually through whispers and fragments. But all roads lead to the same revelation. Zeus learns who he is. You stand beside him as the story unfolds. The words fall heavily into the silence. His father is Cronus, the ruler of the cosmos, the king of the Titans, and the being who swallowed his own children, including Zeus's brothers and sisters. For a long time, no words come. The sea wind moves through nearby trees. Waves strike distant rocks. The world continues unchanged. Yet everything has changed. Some truths arrive like lightning, instant, blinding, impossible to ignore. This is one of them. The young god discovers that his life began not because he was loved, but because he was feared. Imagine the weight of such knowledge. To learn that your father's first response to your existence was terror. To discover that your survival required deception. To realize that your family has been broken for longer than you have lived. The emotions must have been overwhelming. Anger, confusion, sorrow, perhaps even pity. The myths rarely tell us exactly what Zeus felt. Ancient storytellers focused more on actions than inner thoughts. Yet the emotional truth remains visible between the lines. Nothing about this revelation leaves him unchanged. That night, sleep does not come easily. You sit beside a small fire outside the cave. The stars shine overhead. The flames crackle softly. Everything feels familiar. And yet nothing does. For the first time, Zeus sees his life as part of a larger story. A story of power, fear, prophecy, and betrayal. Many heroes discover hidden origins. Few discover origins so tragic. But another realization soon follows. If Cronus swallowed the others, then perhaps they are not truly dead. The idea seems impossible. Yet mythology rarely obeys ordinary rules. The swallowed children remain trapped inside their father, neither fully alive nor fully gone, waiting, suspended. The image is haunting. A family frozen in darkness while time moves forward without them. The thought refuses to leave Zeus's mind. He begins asking questions. Could they be rescued? Could the prophecy still be fulfilled? Could the suffering finally end? The answers remain uncertain. And uncertainty creates a crossroad. For the first time, Zeus faces a choice that truly belongs to him. He can remain hidden. The mountains have protected him for years. No one knows his location. No one forces him toward danger. He could continue living in safety. Many would understand such a decision, perhaps even admire it. But there is another path, a far more dangerous one. He could confront Cronus. He could challenge the ruler of the universe. He could attempt what no one else has dared. The choice seems impossible, because this is not merely a battle. It is rebellion against the established order of existence. Cronus does not simply rule the world. He is the world. His authority reaches everywhere. His power appears absolute. Many ancient listeners would have understood the scale of the challenge. It would be like standing before a mountain and deciding to move it, or staring at the sea and declaring it would change direction. Yet Zeus cannot ignore what he has learned. The hidden years shaped him in unexpected ways. He grew among open skies rather than palace walls. He learned trust rather than suspicion. He learned resilience rather than control. Without realizing it, he became the opposite of Cronus. This contrast now matters, because destiny alone never changes the world. Character does. One evening, another omen arrives. The story survives in several forms. Some describe a dream. Others mention a sacred eagle. Another tradition speaks of thunder heard beneath a clear sky. You experience it as the ancients might have imagined it, a still night. No clouds, no wind, the sea calm beneath moonlight. Then suddenly, from somewhere beyond sight, a deep rumble echoes across the horizon. Not a storm, not an earthquake, something stranger. The sound fades quickly, yet everyone hears it. No one understands it. And perhaps that is the point. The Greeks often used omens not as answers, but as invitations. Questions hidden inside symbols. What was destiny trying to say? No one could know. Yet Zeus interprets the sign in his own way. He sees it as a warning against inaction. Because every day he remains hidden, his brothers and sisters remain imprisoned. Every day he delays, Cronus continues ruling through fear. Every day he waits, the prophecy grows older. And so the decision slowly forms, not from pride, not from ambition, but from responsibility. This is a crucial moment in his life. The future king of Olympus does not begin his journey seeking a throne. He begins by trying to save his family. That distinction matters. Power becomes part of the story later. At first, the motivation is deeply personal. A son confronting the damage created by his father. A brother seeking lost siblings. A young god refusing to accept injustice as permanent. The mountains that protected him now feel like a farewell. You walk beside him through familiar paths, past sacred springs, past olive groves, past caves that sheltered his childhood. The air smells of pine and salt. The sky glows with the colors of sunset. Everything seems touched by memory, for he knows that once he leaves, nothing will ever be the same. Ahead lies uncertainty. Ahead lies danger. Ahead lies the possibility of failure. Yet ahead also lies purpose. The hidden child has become something new. Not yet a king. Not yet a conqueror. Not yet the master of thunder, but a young god willing to stand against fear. Far beyond the sea in the halls of Cronus, the ruler of the cosmos remains unaware. He believes the prophecy defeated. He believes the future controlled. He believes the last surviving child lost forever. But fate is already moving toward him. And somewhere between the mountains of Crete and the throne of the Titans, the first true step toward war has finally begun. The sea stretches endlessly before you. Silver moonlight dances across its surface. Gentle waves rise and fall beneath the stars. Behind you, the mountains of Crete fade into darkness. Ahead lies the unknown. For the first time in his life, Zeus is leaving the island that protected him. The journey feels strangely quiet. No armies accompany him. No banners fly overhead. No crowds celebrate his departure. The future ruler of Olympus begins his greatest mission almost alone. The Greeks often appreciated such moments. They understood that history rarely announces itself when it begins. The most important decisions are often made in silence. A single traveler, a single choice, a single step, and yet entire worlds can change because of them. As the boat moves across dark waters, Zeus watches the horizon. Cold sea air brushes against his face. The scent of salt fills every breath. Far above, constellations drift across the heavens. Ancient sailors trusted those stars. So do you. Yet Zeus's thoughts remain fixed elsewhere. On Cronus, on the siblings he has never truly met, on the prophecy that has shaped every moment of his life. One question returns again and again. What kind of father swallows his own children? The answer seems obvious. A frightened one. Yet that realization complicates everything. Fear does not excuse cruelty, but it explains it. And understanding an enemy can sometimes be more dangerous than hating one. Because hatred simplifies. Understanding forces you to see complexity. The young god is beginning to learn this lesson. It will follow him throughout his reign. Days pass. The sea journey continues. Harbors appear and disappear along distant shores. Fishing boats drift across calm waters. Small temples stand upon rocky cliffs overlooking the waves. The ancient world unfolds around him. Beautiful, fragile, worth protecting. These experiences matter because Zeus has spent most of his life hidden from civilization. Now he begins seeing the broader world, the people who live beneath the rule of titans, the communities shaped by forces beyond their control, the countless lives connected to decisions made by powerful beings. Leadership begins with perspective, and perspective often begins with travel. One evening, as sunset turns the sea bronze and gold, another strange sign appears. A large eagle circles overhead. Once, twice, 3 times. Then it flies eastward, toward the lands ruled by Cronus. Ancient traditions often associate eagles with Zeus. Whether this symbolism existed from the beginning remains uncertain. Historians continue debating the earliest origins of the connection. Yet within the story, the moment feels significant. The bird appears, observes, then leads, almost as if destiny itself has taken wing. You follow its path. Eventually, the voyage ends. The coastline rises before you. Stone cliffs catch the morning sunlight. Forests spread across distant hills. Rivers shine like silver threads beneath the sky. Somewhere beyond this landscape stands the realm of Cronus, the center of power, the heart of the old order, and the destination of a hidden child who was never meant to survive. You might expect Zeus to rush forward, to charge directly toward confrontation, but that is not what happens. One of the most overlooked qualities in Greek mythology is patience. Heroes often succeed because they know when not to act. Wisdom sometimes means waiting, observing, preparing. The young god understands this instinctively. Cronus cannot be challenged through strength alone. The ruler of the cosmos possesses centuries of experience, countless allies, immense authority. A direct attack would accomplish nothing. So Zeus chooses another path. Strategy. Different traditions describe this period differently. Some suggest he enters the household of Cronus disguised as a servant. Others claim divine allies assist his approach. Several versions preserve fragments of older stories whose details have faded with time. Yet nearly all agree that Zeus reaches the court through cleverness rather than force. You walk beside him as he enters the domain of the Titans. The contrast is striking. Massive halls rise toward shadowed ceilings. Torchlight flickers against polished stone. The scent of burning oil fills the air. Everywhere you look, symbols of power surround you. Yet something feels wrong. The atmosphere lacks warmth. The grandeur feels heavy, like a kingdom built upon anxiety. You begin understanding why. Fear leaves traces, even when hidden, even when denied. The court of Cronus operates beneath an invisible tension. Everyone obeys, everyone respects authority. Yet true trust seems absent. The king's fear has spread through the kingdom like a slow-moving shadow, and shadows tend to grow. Eventually Zeus sees him, Cronus, the father he has never known, the ruler who unknowingly shaped his entire life. You can almost feel the weight of the moment. Years of questions, years of absence, years of hidden anger, now separated only by distance. Ancient myths rarely describe their first meeting in detail. Perhaps storytellers understood that some emotions are difficult to capture with words. The moment feels too large, too complicated, too human. For what does Zeus see? A monster, a tyrant, a frightened old king, perhaps all three. Cronus appears powerful, yet age has touched him. Not weakness, not decline, but weariness, the burden of endless vigilance, the exhaustion of permanent suspicion. you suddenly realize something important. The prophecy already defeated him long ago, not physically, emotionally, spiritually. The fear of losing power has stolen his peace, and fear continues demanding more. This realization plants a seed inside Zeus. One day he may possess tremendous authority himself. What will prevent him from becoming the same? The question remains unanswered. For now, soon an opportunity appears. Different traditions preserve different details, but the essential story remains consistent. Zeus gains access to the king, close enough to act, close enough to begin the process that will change everything. Yet uncertainty remains. What if the plan fails? What if Cronus discovers the truth? What if prophecy was wrong from the beginning? The young god faces a difficult reality. Destiny may point toward a future, but it never guarantees success. Every important choice still carries risk. One night while sacred fires burn low within the palace, Zeus experiences another dream. Dreams have followed him since childhood. This one feels different, more vivid, more urgent. In the dream, he stands before a great door made of bronze. From behind it come voices, faint, distant, calling his name. He reaches toward the door. The voices grow louder. Then suddenly the bronze cracks. Light pours through the opening, and 6 stars rise into the sky. The dream ends. When morning comes, the meaning seems obvious. His siblings are waiting, still trapped, still imprisoned, still part of the unfinished story. The dream strengthens his resolve. The time for preparation is ending. The time for action approaches. Soon Cronus will face consequences he never imagined. Soon the swallowed children will see daylight again. Soon the balance of the cosmos will begin shifting. But not yet. For one final act of deception remains. One final step must be taken. And hidden deep within the halls of the Titan King, fate is quietly preparing to open the door that has remained closed for generations. Night settles softly over the palace of Cronus. The great halls grow quiet. Torchlight flickers along endless corridors. Outside, stars shine above a sleeping world. Inside, destiny stands only moments away. You can feel the tension in the air. Years of preparation, years of hiding, years of waiting. Everything has led here. Yet Zeus remains calm, not because he lacks fear, but because he understands something important. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision to move forward despite it. The opportunity finally arrives. Ancient traditions preserve different versions of what happens next. Some claim Zeus receives help from powerful allies. Others say an ancient goddess provides a special potion. A few storytellers suggest older divine forces hidden behind the scenes guide events toward their destined conclusion. The details vary. The outcome does not. Cronus consumes a drink prepared by Zeus. At first, nothing seems unusual. The king continues speaking. The palace remains still. The sacred fires continue burning. Then everything changes. A violent reaction overtakes him. The ruler of the cosmos rises suddenly from his throne. The great hall falls silent. Shock spreads across the faces of those gathered. No one understands what is happening. No one except Zeus. For the prophecy has begun moving again, not as an idea, not as a fear, as reality. The first thing Cronus releases is not a child. It is the stone Rhea once wrapped in cloth, the same stone he swallowed years earlier, the same deception that preserved Zeus's life. The sight is astonishing. Ancient listeners must have recognized the symbolism immediately, a lie that protected hope, a small act of courage defeating years of fear. Even after all this time, the stone remains part of the story. Proof that destiny often survives in unexpected forms. Then something even more remarkable occurs. One by one, the lost children emerge. First comes Hestia, then Demeter, then Hera, then Hades, then Poseidon. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon. The moment feels almost impossible to imagine. An entire generation returned from darkness. A family reunited after years beyond counting. The palace becomes a place of astonishment. The old order trembles, and the future suddenly feels real. You watch Zeus as his brothers and sisters stand before him. This should be a perfect moment, a joyful reunion, a triumph. Yet the emotions are far more complicated. These are his family, and they are strangers. He has spent his life imagining them, wondering about them, fighting to save them. But imagination and reality are never exactly the same. The Greeks understood this tension. Many of their stories explore the gap between expectation and experience. The reunion is powerful, but it is not simple. How could it be? Hestia carries quiet dignity. Demeter radiates warmth and strength. Hera possesses intelligence and fierce pride. Poseidon seems restless like waves before a storm. And Hades? Hades is perhaps the most difficult to understand. His long imprisonment has left him thoughtful, reserved, observant. Some later traditions would emphasize this quality repeatedly. Already you can see hints of the figure he will become. The siblings study one another, learning faces, voices, expressions, trying to build relationships that should have existed years earlier. There is joy, there is relief, yet there is also grief, because no reunion can restore lost time. The years remain gone, the childhoods remain stolen. The family can move forward, but it cannot return. This realization becomes one of Zeus's first lessons about leadership. Victory does not erase suffering, it only creates the possibility of healing. Outside the palace, whispers spread rapidly. The children of Cronus have returned. The prophecy lives. Change is coming. Across the world, uncertainty begins replacing certainty. The Titan king who once seemed invincible now appears vulnerable. And vulnerability is contagious. Allies begin questioning loyalties. Old assumptions begin cracking. The foundations of an empire start to shift. Meanwhile, the reunited siblings gather together. You sit beside them beneath torchlight as they share stories. Zeus speaks of Crete, of mountains and sea winds, of caves hidden among cliffs. The others speak of darkness, of waiting, of endless years suspended within Cronus. Their experiences could not be more different. And yet they share something important: loss. Each sibling lost a life that should have been theirs. Each carries wounds invisible to the eye. These wounds will shape future relationships, especially between Zeus and his brothers. Ancient myths often simplify divine conflicts, but beneath many rivalries lies something deeply human. Different experiences create different perspectives. Poseidon endured one fate. Hades endured another. Zeus lived an entirely separate life. How could they see the world identically? They could not, and they never will. The seeds of future tensions are already present. Not hostility, not yet. Only difference. Difference that will one day matter. As the night deepens, another strange event occurs. An omen. The ancient world rarely remains silent during moments of great transformation. According to one tradition, a sacred flame suddenly burns brighter than before. Another version describes an eagle landing upon a nearby pillar. A third claims priests observed unusual stars moving across the sky. No one agrees completely, yet everyone senses significance. The universe itself seems to acknowledge the turning of an age. You notice how often Greek mythology presents change through symbols. Not direct answers, symbols. Because symbols invite interpretation, and interpretation keeps mysteries alive. What exactly did the omen mean? Ancient storytellers disagreed. Modern scholars disagree. Perhaps that uncertainty is part of its power, for destiny is rarely understood while it unfolds. Only afterward, only in memory. The siblings soon face a difficult truth. Their freedom has consequences. Cronus remains alive. The Titans remain powerful. The old order still controls much of creation. This is not the end of a struggle. It is the beginning. Many stories conclude with reunion. This one does not, because family alone cannot solve the problem before them. The king who swallowed his children now knows one survived. The prophecy he feared has returned. And fear, when cornered, often becomes more dangerous. Zeus understands this. He sees it clearly. The hidden child who once fled danger no longer exists. In his place stands someone new, a brother, a leader, a challenger. Yet he also understands something else. If they are to survive what comes next, they must remain united. Trust will matter. Loyalty will matter. Family will matter. The lesson seems obvious, but history repeatedly shows how difficult such lessons can be, especially when power enters the story. For now, however, hope burns brightly. The lost children have returned. The family exists again. The prophecy breathes. And somewhere, beyond the palace walls, across mountains and seas, the first distant rumblings of a greater conflict are already beginning to echo through the world. The age of hiding is over. The age of war is approaching. The world feels different now, not visibly. The mountains still stand where they always have. The rivers continue their endless journeys toward the sea. Moonlight still spills across temple roofs and quiet harbor towns. Yet beneath the familiar surface, something profound has changed. The prophecy is no longer hidden. It walks openly beneath the stars. You stand beside Zeus as dawn breaks across a restless horizon. The air smells of salt and wet earth. Cold wind moves through cypress groves. Faraway waves strike ancient cliffs with slow rhythmic force. The sounds are peaceful, but peace is becoming increasingly fragile. Because freedom has consequences. The return of Cronus's children has created a reality that cannot be undone. For years, the Titan King feared a future threat. Now that threat has a face, a name, a family, and allies. The old balance is collapsing. The first signs appear quietly. Messengers travel between distant kingdoms. Rumors spread through sacred places. Ancient beings begin choosing sides. The Greeks often portrayed history as a web of relationships rather than a sequence of events. What matters is not only what happens. What matters is who stands with whom and who stands alone. Zeus understands this instinctively. His next challenge will not be defeating Cronus. It will be building trust. Trust is harder than victory. Victory can happen in a single day. Trust takes years. You watch as the young god begins speaking with his siblings. The conversations continue deep into the night, beside sacred fires, within hidden valleys, along quiet shorelines where moonlight turns the sea silver. Each discussion reveals something important. The siblings share a common enemy, but they do not share identical dreams. Hestia desires peace. Demeter thinks of renewal. Hera seeks dignity and order. Poseidon longs for action. Hades remains thoughtful and cautious. Each carries different hopes, different fears, different memories. A leader must unite people who do not think alike. This becomes Zeus's first true test. Not strength, not courage. Leadership. The distinction matters. Many warriors can fight. Far fewer can inspire. As days pass, Zeus proves surprisingly skilled at this task. He listens more than he speaks. He asks questions. He studies reactions. He learns where agreement exists and where conflict hides beneath the surface. The hidden years on Crete taught him something valuable. People reveal themselves when they feel safe. Cronus never understood this. Fear ruled his kingdom. Trust begins shaping Zeus's. The contrast grows stronger with every passing day. One evening, another warning arrives. The sky has remained clear for weeks. No storms, no unusual weather, nothing disturbing. Then suddenly, just after sunset, dark clouds appear above distant mountains. Not ordinary clouds. Ancient storytellers describe them almost as living things. Silent, slow-moving, watching. You stand beside a sacred fire as priests observe the phenomenon. Some whisper prayers. Others exchange worried glances. The cloud remains visible all night. Yet no rain falls, no thunder sounds. By morning it has vanished. The meaning remains uncertain. As always, some believed it was a warning from older powers. Others thought it foretold war. Another tradition claimed it represented destiny gathering strength. No interpretation can be proven, and perhaps none need be, because the omen achieves its purpose. Everyone feels it. Change is approaching. The world knows, even if it does not understand. Meanwhile, Cronus responds exactly as fear often responds, with greater control, greater suspicion, greater force. The king begins gathering loyal titans. Ancient allies answer his call. Powerful beings whose names once inspired awe across creation. Many had followed him for centuries. Some genuinely believed he protected cosmic order. Others simply feared the alternative. This complexity is important. The Titan War is not a struggle between pure good and pure evil. Greek mythology rarely works that way. Many titans are honorable. Many Olympians will later make serious mistakes. The conflict emerges from competing visions of the future and from the fears that accompany change. You imagine the conversations taking place within Cronus's court. Veteran rulers discussing rumors. Old warriors preparing for uncertainty. Ancient loyalties being tested. Not everyone welcomes war. Not everyone trusts prophecy. Yet events continue moving forward, because sometimes history reaches a point where remaining still becomes impossible. Zeus faces another challenge: numbers. The Titans possess overwhelming strength. Their influence extends across much of the cosmos. The younger gods need allies, powerful allies. Ancient traditions preserve fascinating stories about this period. Some describe journeys into forgotten places. Others tell of imprisoned beings hidden deep within creation. Certain versions suggest Zeus receives guidance through dreams. The details differ, but a common theme appears. The future king learns that help often exists in unexpected places. One night, while sleeping beneath a sky crowded with stars, Zeus experiences a dream unlike any before. You enter the dream with him. He stands upon a vast plain covered in mist. No mountains, no sea, no landmarks, only endless whiteness. Then shapes begin emerging. Enormous shapes. Figures bound in chains, silent, waiting. The chains stretch downward into darkness. The figures raise their heads. One speaks. The voice sounds like distant stone breaking apart. Not all prisoners dwell within a king. Then the dream ends. Zeus awakens before dawn. The stars still shine overhead. The sacred fire has nearly burned out. Yet the words remain. Not all prisoners dwell within a king. The meaning feels important, though unclear. And that uncertainty follows him into the coming days. The Greeks often treated dreams this way. Not instructions, hints, pieces of larger puzzles. Destiny rarely reveals everything at once. Far away, other signs continue appearing. Eagles circle unusual locations. Sacred springs behave strangely. Prophets report troubling visions. Across the ancient world, people begin sensing that two ages are colliding. The old age of Titans, the coming age of Olympus. Neither can fully exist while the other survives. The tension becomes impossible to ignore. Even ordinary mortals feel it. Fishermen pause to study unusual skies. Farmers discuss strange omens near village fires. Travelers carry stories from region to region. Most do not understand what is happening, yet they know something is happening. History often feels this way while unfolding. Confusing, incomplete, filled with rumors and uncertainty. Only later does it become a story. Zeus, however, cannot wait for clarity. The future demands action. Every passing day strengthens the possibility of open conflict. Every passing day forces choices upon allies and enemies alike. The young god feels the weight of responsibility growing heavier, not because he desires power, because others increasingly look to him for direction. Leadership is becoming unavoidable, and leadership often feels lonely. Late one evening, as stars fill the heavens and cool winds move through olive groves, Zeus stands alone overlooking the sea. You stand beside him. The horizon stretches endlessly before you, dark, silent, unknown. For a moment, he remembers the child who once watched these same waters from Crete, the hidden boy protected by caves and mountains. That life feels distant now, almost like someone else's memory. Ahead lies war, ahead lies sacrifice, ahead lies a future no prophecy has fully explained. Yet the path forward remains clear, because the storm is gathering, and somewhere beneath the foundations of the world, ancient prisoners are already beginning to stir. The dream refuses to leave him. Days have passed since Zeus heard the mysterious voice upon the mist-covered plain, yet the words remain. Not all prisoners dwell within a king. Again and again he turns the message over in his mind, like a stone carried by river water, smoothed by reflection, shaped by time. You walk beside him through a world growing steadily more uncertain. The signs of approaching conflict appear everywhere now. Sea winds seem sharper, sacred fires burn lower. Even conversations carry a strange tension, as though everyone senses the same invisible truth. The age of waiting is ending. The age of action has arrived. Zeus continues searching for answers, and eventually answers find him. Ancient traditions tell of hidden knowledge preserved beneath the earth itself. Knowledge older than Cronus, older than the Titans, older even than many mountains. The stories vary in detail. Some speak of ancient gods offering guidance. Others describe prophecies remembered by Earth itself. A few surviving traditions suggest sacred voices emerging from forgotten shrines. Whatever the source, the message becomes clear. There are prisoners hidden far deeper than the children swallowed by Cronus. Powerful prisoners, dangerous prisoners, necessary prisoners. You travel with Zeus toward places rarely visited. The landscape grows wild. Steep cliffs rise against the sky. Deep valleys vanish into shadow. The air smells of stone and rain. Clouds gather around distant peaks. Everything feels older here, older than kingdoms, older than memory. The Greeks often imagined certain locations existing beyond ordinary geography, places where creation still remembered its earliest moments. This feels like one of them. At last, Zeus reaches a place where the earth itself seems wounded. A vast chasm opens before him. Darkness descends beyond sight. Cold air rises from below. The silence feels immense, almost alive. And there, according to ancient myth, he learns the truth. Long ago, before the rise of Cronus, powerful beings were imprisoned deep within the world. Among them are the Cyclopes, and the 100-handed ones, Hecatoncères, ancient and terrifying, yet not evil, merely feared. Feared enough to be locked away. The pattern feels familiar. Fear creating prisons, fear creating suffering, fear repeating itself across generations. The realization strikes Zeus deeply. Cronus swallowed his children because of fear. Earlier rulers imprisoned these beings because of fear. Again and again, power chooses control over understanding. The cycle seems endless, unless someone breaks it. Standing at the edge of the abyss, Zeus makes another defining choice. He chooses liberation, not because it is safe, Not because success is guaranteed, but because he believes injustice cannot become justice merely through age. Some traditions present this moment almost as a test, a question posed by destiny itself. Will Zeus repeat the mistakes of earlier rulers, or will he choose differently? His answer changes everything. The prisons are opened. The ancient captives emerge. The sight is overwhelming. The Cyclopes rise from darkness, massive figures shaped by primordial power. One great eye shines beneath torchlight. Their presence feels strange, neither monstrous nor comforting, simply ancient, very ancient. Beside them come the 100-handed ones, gigantic beings whose strength seems almost impossible to comprehend. Even mountains might fear them. You understand immediately why earlier rulers chose imprisonment, and why that choice may have been wrong. Because fear often mistakes difference for danger. The freed beings study Zeus carefully. The young god studies them in return. Neither side fully trusts the other. Trust, after all, cannot be created instantly. Yet something important exists: respect. Respect often comes before trust. And respect is enough. The alliance begins. The Greeks loved stories like this. Stories where strength emerges not through domination, but through cooperation. The future king gains allies because he offers freedom, not because he demands obedience. This distinction will shape the war to come. Days later, another remarkable event unfolds, one remembered across thousands of years, one that will become inseparable from the identity of Zeus himself. The Cyclopes are master craftsmen, divine smiths capable of creating wonders beyond mortal imagination. Grateful for their freedom, they offer gifts, not ordinary gifts, weapons, tools of destiny, symbols of power. You stand within a cavern illuminated by fire. The air shimmers with heat. Metal glows within ancient furnaces. Sparks rise into darkness like tiny stars. The scent of smoke and molten ore fills every breath. The Cyclopes labor beside roaring flames. Hammer strikes echo through stone halls. The sound feels rhythmic, almost sacred, as though creation itself is being reshaped. One by one, gifts emerge. For Poseidon, a trident, a weapon tied forever to the sea. Poseidon. For Hades, a helm of invisibility, a symbol of mystery and hidden power. Hades. And for Zeus, something else, something extraordinary. The thunderbolt. The weapon appears almost alive. Light moves within it. Energy coils through its form. The object seems less crafted than awakened. Ancient Greeks viewed lightning with awe. It appeared suddenly, moved unpredictably, connected heaven and earth in a single brilliant instant. No symbol could better represent divine authority. When Zeus accepts the thunderbolt, the moment carries profound meaning. This is not simply a warrior receiving a weapon. It is a transformation, a hidden child becoming a force, a survivor becoming a leader, a possibility becoming reality. You watch him hold it for the first time. The cavern brightens. Light reflects across stone walls. The air hums softly. No words are necessary. Everyone understands. A threshold has been crossed. Yet another mystery remains. Did the thunderbolt create Zeus's destiny? Or did destiny merely lead him to it? The Greeks rarely offered simple answers. Perhaps power and character shape each other. Perhaps neither exists independently. The question lingers, as important questions often do. Later that night, Zeus stands alone outside the cavern. Stars stretch endlessly overhead. The cool air feels refreshing after the heat of the forge. Faraway clouds gather above distant mountains. For a long time he says nothing. The thunderbolt rests beside him, silent, waiting. You sense conflicting emotions. Confidence, responsibility, perhaps even apprehension, because true power rarely feels simple. The moment someone gains the ability to shape the world, they also gain responsibility for what follows. Zeus understands this more clearly than many realize. The child who grew among mountains learned humility. The young leader who freed prisoners learned compassion. Now the bearer of the thunderbolt must learn something harder: restraint. Soon he will face Cronus. Soon armies will move. Soon creation itself will tremble. The temptation to rely solely on power will become enormous. Whether he can resist that temptation remains uncertain, and uncertainty creates mystery. As the night deepens, a final omen appears. Far above the horizon, lightning flashes. Once, twice, 3 times. Yet no storm follows, only silence. The flashes illuminate distant clouds before fading into darkness. Ancient priests might have called it a sign. Poets might have called it destiny. Perhaps it was both. For somewhere beyond those mountains, Cronus is gathering his forces. The Titans are preparing. The old world is preparing. And now at last, so is Zeus. The first thunderbolt has been forged. The first great alliance has been formed. and the war that will decide the future of the cosmos is finally ready to begin. The war begins slowly, not with a single battle, not with a dramatic challenge shouted across a battlefield, not with thunder shaking the heavens. Wars rarely begin the way stories remember them. Instead, they begin with decisions, choices, lines crossed from which there is no return. You stand beside Zeus as the final preparations unfold. The air smells of rain. Clouds drift across distant mountains. Sacred fires burn through the night as allies gather beneath their glow. Every face reflects the same realization. The future is about to become uncertain. Again, yet this uncertainty feels different from the uncertainty of childhood. Then Zeus did not know who he was. Now he knows exactly who he is. The challenge is no longer identity. The challenge is endurance, because the struggle ahead will last far longer than anyone expects. Ancient Greek tradition remembers it as the Titanomachy, Titanomachy, a war lasting 10 years. 10 years beneath troubled skies. 10 years of victories and failures. 10 years during which the fate of creation remained undecided. The number itself carries symbolic weight. Ancient storytellers often used long spans of time to emphasize the magnitude of a conflict. Whether the war lasted exactly 10 years is impossible to know. Historians continue to debate how early traditions understood the number. Yet the message remains clear. This would not be a quick triumph. This would be a test of character, of loyalty, of purpose, of hope. The first campaigns bring mixed results. The Titans remain enormously powerful. Their strength is ancient, their experience vast. Many have ruled since before Zeus was born. Some since before many mountains rose from the earth. You watch battles unfold across landscapes that feel almost primordial. Cliffs collapse beneath tremendous force. Valleys echo with distant impacts. Storm clouds gather above armies moving through rocky terrain. The scale feels larger than ordinary war, because this is not merely a struggle between armies. It is a struggle between generations, the old world against the new, and such conflicts are rarely simple. One evening, after a difficult battle, Zeus sits alone beside a fire. The flames burn low. Rain falls softly beyond the shelter of stone. The smell of wet earth fills the air. For the first time since leaving Crete, he looks exhausted. Not physically, emotionally. Leadership is teaching him lessons no prophecy ever mentioned. Every decision carries consequences. Every choice affects others. Every victory costs something. The burden feels heavier than the thunderbolt itself. This realization marks an important transformation. The young god who challenged Cronus imagined defeating a tyrant. The commander leading a war discovers something harder. Defeating a tyrant does not automatically create peace. Peace must be built, and building is far more difficult than breaking. The war continues. Seasons change. Stars shift across the heavens. Snow appears upon distant peaks before melting again beneath warmer skies. Time passes, and with time relationships evolve. Zeus grows closer to some siblings, more complicated with others. Poseidon increasingly embraces action. His confidence expands with every campaign. At times his boldness inspires. At other times it worries those around him. You begin seeing hints of the proud sea god he will someday become. Meanwhile, Hades remains different. Thoughtful, measured, careful. Where Poseidon charges forward, Hades studies. Where Poseidon seeks momentum, Hades seeks understanding. Neither approach is entirely right, neither entirely wrong. Yet these differences quietly shape the future. Zeus notices them and learns from them. Leadership requires understanding personalities as much as strategy. The Greeks often explored this theme through family relationships. People who love one another can still disagree profoundly, perhaps especially then. Another year passes, then another. The war refuses to end, and uncertainty begins spreading through both sides. Among the Titans, questions emerge. Can Cronus still guarantee victory? Among Zeus's allies, different questions arise. Will victory ever come at all? Long conflicts create unique fears. Not fear of defeat, fear of endlessness. The possibility that struggle may continue forever. Zeus feels this fear too, though he rarely speaks of it. One night, while sleeping beneath a canopy of stars, he experiences another dream. Dreams have accompanied him throughout his life. This one feels especially vivid. You enter it beside him. He stands upon a battlefield. No armies remain, no sounds, no movement, only silence. The sky above is completely dark. Then he notices something strange. A single olive tree growing in the middle of the empty field. Its leaves shimmer silver beneath unseen light. The tree bears fruit, but only on one side. The other side remains barren. A voice speaks from somewhere beyond sight. Victory nourishes only what survives it. Then the dream dissolves. Morning arrives. The meaning remains unclear, as dreams often do. Yet the image lingers. Victory nourishes only what survives it. The words seem less like a promise and more like a warning. For what good is triumph if it destroys everything worth saving? The question follows Zeus through the months ahead. Ancient myths often focus on battles, yet beneath those battles lie philosophical questions. What kind of world should exist after conflict ends? What values deserve preservation? What sacrifices are acceptable? These questions matter because they reveal character, and character remains the true center of the story. As years pass, Zeus's reputation grows, not merely because of strength. Others possess strength, not merely because of the thunderbolt. Weapons alone inspire little loyalty. His reputation grows because he endures, because he continues, because he refuses despair. People begin looking toward him during difficult moments, seeking reassurance, seeking direction, seeking hope. This trust changes him. Responsibility always does. The hidden child from Crete continues fading into memory. In his place stands someone larger, not larger in power, larger in perspective. He increasingly understands that leadership is service as much as authority. The realization comes at a cost: loneliness. The higher someone rises, the fewer equals remain nearby. Ancient storytellers frequently associated kingship with isolation. Zeus begins experiencing this truth firsthand. He is surrounded by allies, yet increasingly alone with his decisions. One evening, as thunder rolls across distant mountains, a remarkable sign appears. Lightning strikes a high peak, then another, and another. 7 strikes in total, each illuminating the darkness for a brief instant. Priests debate the meaning. Warriors whisper interpretations around their fires. Some see victory, others see warning. A few see both. No one agrees. The mystery remains unresolved, perhaps intentionally, because destiny seldom speaks plainly, and perhaps it should not. If the future were completely known, courage would lose much of its meaning. The war continues, year after year, beneath dark skies, across changing seasons, through victories and setbacks. And somewhere deep within the struggle, Zeus begins transforming into the ruler he will eventually become. Not through triumph, through endurance, not through certainty, through doubt, not through power alone, through responsibility. Yet the greatest test still lies ahead. For far beyond the battlefield, the old king remains unbroken. Cronus still holds his throne. The Titans still command enormous strength. And destiny has not yet revealed which generation will inherit the future. 10 years. The number hangs over the story like a distant bell. 10 years of battles, 10 years of sacrifice, 10 years of waiting for an answer. You stand beneath a sky heavy with storm clouds. The air feels charged, not simply with approaching rain, with expectation. Something is changing. Even the earth seems aware of it. The sea moves restlessly against rocky shores. Winds sweep across mountain peaks. Sacred fires flicker unpredictably in temples and shrines. Across the world, people sense that the long struggle is nearing its conclusion. Yet no one knows how it will end. Not even Zeus. The years have transformed him. The difference is impossible to miss. The young god who left Crete carried questions. The leader standing before you now carries responsibility. He has seen allies fall. He has endured disappointment. He has made difficult choices, and through it all he has continued forward. The Greeks often portrayed maturity this way, not as the gaining of certainty, but as the ability to act despite uncertainty. Zeus has learned this lesson well. Now destiny prepares to test him one final time. The war reaches its decisive phase. Ancient traditions describe tremendous battles unfolding across the cosmos. Storms rage above mountains. The sea itself seems to tremble. The heavens echo with thunder. The imagery is grand. Yet beneath the spectacle lies something deeply personal. A son confronting his father. A generation confronting the one before it. A future demanding space from the past. The symbolism remains powerful because it speaks to experiences beyond mythology. Every generation eventually faces the question: what should be preserved? What should be changed? And what happens when the two cannot coexist? You stand beside Zeus as preparations begin for the final campaign. The camp feels unusually quiet. Warriors sharpen weapons. Messengers move between fires. Leaders discuss plans in hushed voices. Yet beneath the activity lies reflection. Everyone understands the stakes. If they fail now, the old order may endure forever. If they succeed, creation itself will be reshaped. Late that night, another omen appears. The moon rises red above the horizon. Not bright red, Not dramatic. A subtle crimson glow, enough to attract attention, enough to inspire questions. Ancient cultures often attach significance to unusual celestial events. The Greeks were no exception. Some saw warnings. Others saw promises. The meaning depended upon the observer. Zeus watches the moon in silence. He no longer searches desperately for certainty within omens. Years of experience have changed him. He understands that signs do not remove responsibility. They merely accompany it. The choice still belongs to him. The next morning, the final advance begins. Clouds cover much of the sky. Cold winds sweep across rugged terrain. The armies move forward, steady, determined. The Titans gather in response. The old rulers of creation preparing for one last stand. You can almost feel history holding its breath. For what happens next will echo through every story that follows. The battle itself survives in many forms. Poets described it differently. Priests emphasized different details. Oral traditions preserved varying memories. Yet certain themes appear again and again. The heavens shake. The earth trembles. Thunder rolls across the world. And Zeus stands at the center, not alone, never alone. His siblings fight beside him. The Cyclopes support the cause they helped empower. The 100-handed ones unleash tremendous force. The alliances built over years finally reveal their full strength. This matters, because victory does not belong to Zeus alone. One of the most important lessons of his life remains visible here. No ruler succeeds entirely through personal power. The Greeks understood this. Great achievements emerge from relationships, from trust, from cooperation. The final battle proves it. Again and again, as the struggle intensifies, you find yourself watching Cronus, the old king, the feared ruler, the father whose choices shaped everything. He remains formidable, even now, even after years of war. There is something tragic about him, not because he lacks strength, because he lacks peace. The prophecy he tried to avoid has arrived. The future he feared stands before him, and all the desperate actions taken to prevent it have only ensured its fulfillment. Ancient audiences likely recognize the irony immediately. Fear created the very outcome it sought to escape. Few lessons appear more often in Greek mythology, or in human history. The battle reaches its climax. Thunder crashes across the sky. Lightning illuminates dark clouds. The air smells of rain and smoke. The world seems balanced upon a knife's edge. Then the old order breaks. Cronus falls. The Titans are defeated. The war ends. After 10 years, the answer finally arrives. And yet, the moment feels surprisingly quiet. At least to Zeus. The victory everyone imagined does not feel exactly as expected. Ancient myths rarely linger on this emotional complexity, but it is there, visible between the lines. For what happens when someone spends their entire life pursuing a goal? What happens when the struggle ends? The Greeks often explored this question, because endings create emptiness as well as relief. Zeus looks across a changed world. The enemy has fallen. The prophecy is fulfilled. The future belongs to a new generation. Yet countless consequences remain unresolved. His father is defeated, but still his father. His siblings are free, but still marked by suffering. The war is over, but peace has not yet begun. This emotional ambiguity makes the story richer. Victory rarely solves every problem. It simply changes them. As the battlefield grows silent, Zeus approaches Cronus. Ancient traditions disagree about what follows. Some portray judgment. Others emphasize imprisonment. Different regions preserve different conclusions. Historians continue debating how these stories evolved. Yet nearly every version shares one truth. The reign of Cronus has ended. The age of Titans is over. A new age begins. The symbolism would have resonated deeply with ancient listeners, not because they hated the Titans, because change is universal. No kingdom lasts forever. No ruler remains forever. No generation controls the future forever. The story of Cronus becomes a reminder of this reality, even for gods, especially for gods. As evening approaches, the storm clouds finally begin to clear. Sunlight breaks through gaps in the sky. Golden light touches mountains and valleys. The sea glitters beneath the fading storm. For the first time in years, the world feels calm. Not entirely, but calmer. You stand beside Zeus, overlooking the horizon. The wind moves gently through his hair. The thunderbolt rests quietly at his side. There is no celebration yet, no triumphal speech, only reflection. Because he understands something important. Defeating the old world was necessary. Building a better one will be harder, far harder. The war defined his rise. What comes next will define his character. For the throne of heaven now stands empty. The cosmos awaits new leadership. And the greatest challenge of Zeus's life is only beginning. The war is over. For the first time in many years, silence returns to the world. Not the uneasy silence that existed before battle, not the fearful silence that haunted the reign of Cronus. A different silence. The silence that follows enormous change. You stand upon a high ridge overlooking the sea. Morning sunlight spills across distant waters. The air feels fresh after countless storms. Winds move softly through olive trees. Far below, waves strike the shore with steady rhythm. The world seems to be recovering, breathing again. Yet victory has created a new question. Who will rule what comes next? The Titans have fallen. The old order has ended. The cosmos itself now awaits organization. And organizing a universe may be more difficult than conquering one. The Greeks understood this lesson well. Destroying is often easier than building. A war can end in a single day. A stable peace requires generations. Zeus knows this. His siblings know it too. The challenge before them is immense. Because power must now become responsibility. The transformation is significant. For years, Zeus focused on defeating Cronus. That goal provided clarity, direction, purpose. Now the goal has vanished. In its place stands uncertainty. How should the world be governed? How should authority be shared? How can harmony survive among powerful beings with different desires? These questions have no simple answers. Perhaps they never do. The surviving traditions describe an important gathering. The siblings come together, not as prisoners, not as rebels, but as victors standing before an unfinished future. You sit beside them as they speak. The atmosphere remains respectful, yet tension lingers beneath the surface. Not hostility, only the natural tension created whenever great responsibility must be divided. Poseidon watches the sea. Hades remains thoughtful and reserved. Hera observes carefully. Demeter reflects upon renewal. Hestia seeks peace. And Zeus listens. One of the most remarkable aspects of this moment is its uncertainty. Many people assume Zeus immediately claimed everything. The myths suggest something more complicated. Ancient traditions preserve a famous story. The three brothers agree to divide the cosmos through lots, a form of sacred chance, a way of allowing fate to participate in the decision. Whether this event occurred literally or symbolically remains debated. Some researchers believe it reflected ancient ideas about fairness. Others suggest it represented acceptance of destiny. Whatever the interpretation, the story endured because it felt meaningful. The brothers do not simply seize territory. They submit themselves to a larger process, and the results shape mythology forever. Zeus receives the sky. Zeus. Poseidon receives the sea. Poseidon. Hades receives the underworld. Hades. The earth itself remains shared, open to all. The arrangement appears elegant, balanced, orderly, yet mysteries remain. Ancient storytellers occasionally hinted at deeper questions. Was the division truly fair? Would Poseidon have preferred the heavens? Would Hades have chosen differently? Did fate decide the outcome? Or did personality guide destiny? Historians continue debating these possibilities. The myths never provide complete certainty, perhaps intentionally, because uncertainty keeps stories alive. You watch the brothers absorb their new roles. Poseidon seems energized. The sea suits him. Its movement, its unpredictability, its power. There is something deeply natural about the connection. The ocean reflects aspects of his character already visible during the war. Strength, passion, restlessness. Yet you also sense something else, a small shadow. Not resentment exactly, but awareness. The heavens belong to Zeus, and everyone knows the heavens occupy a special place within ancient imagination. The feeling remains subtle, almost invisible. Yet future myths may reveal its consequences. Relationships evolve, slowly, over years. The seeds often appear long before the harvest. Meanwhile, Hades accepts the underworld. The reaction varies depending upon the tradition. Some portray him as solemn, others as practical. A few suggest disappointment. The truth remains elusive. What seems clear is that Hades understands responsibility. The realm of the dead requires order, justice, stability, qualities he possesses in abundance. And yet you cannot help noticing the symbolism. The quiet brother receives the hidden kingdom. The thoughtful observer becomes guardian of mysteries. It feels appropriate, almost inevitable. Still one wonders, what private thoughts accompany such a decision? No one can know. The myths remain silent, and silence sometimes carries its own meaning. For Zeus, the heavens bring both honor and burden. The sky stretches everywhere, above mountains, above seas, above cities and forests and distant islands. To rule the heavens is to watch over everything. The scale feels overwhelming. One evening, shortly after the division, Zeus climbs a high mountain alone. The path winds upward through rocky terrain. The air grows cooler with every step. Below, clouds drift across valleys bathed in golden light. Above, the sky appears endless. You follow him to the summit. There he stands, looking outward, looking downward, looking inward. For perhaps the first time, he fully understands the weight of what has happened. The hidden child from Crete, the rebel who challenged Cronus, the commander who endured 10 years of war. All those versions of himself remain part of him, yet none are sufficient for what comes next. Now he must become a ruler. The transformation feels profound. Ancient kings often inherited authority. Zeus earned it. And earning something can make its burden feel heavier. That night, another dream arrives. The dream unfolds beneath a sky crowded with stars. Zeus sees 3 rivers flowing from a single mountain. One flows toward the sea. One descends beneath the earth. One rises into the clouds. At first, the rivers move independently. Then he notices something remarkable. Far below the surface, all 3 remain connected. The dream ends. Its meaning seems almost obvious. Different realms, different responsibilities, yet one shared reality. The cosmos functions because balance exists, not because one domain dominates all others. The lesson stays with him. It will influence many future decisions, because wisdom often emerges from understanding connections rather than differences. As weeks pass, the world gradually settles into its new shape. The seas recognize Poseidon. The dead begin their journey toward Hades. The heavens answer to Zeus. A structure emerges where chaos once threatened. The transition feels almost peaceful, yet peace often hides future challenges. The Greeks understood this. Every resolution creates new possibilities. Every victory creates new responsibilities. Every beginning carries unseen consequences. Zeus senses this truth. The throne of heaven no longer feels distant. It waits, patiently, expectantly. The sky now belongs to him. But ruling the sky is not the same as ruling himself. And soon he will discover that authority over others is far easier than mastery of one's own heart. Far above the sleeping world, among stars that have watched generations rise and fall, the next chapter of destiny is already beginning to unfold. The throne waits, not as a reward, not as a treasure, but as a responsibility. You stand upon the slopes of a mountain that future generations will call Olympus. Mount Olympus. Morning mist drifts across rocky peaks. The scent of pine and wild herbs fills the cool air. Far below, rivers wind through valleys touched by early sunlight. The world appears peaceful, yet Zeus feels no triumph, only weight. For years he dreamed of defeating Cronus. Now that dream has become reality, and reality rarely feels exactly as imagined. The Greeks often understood this paradox. The achievement people desire most intensely often reveals new burdens hidden within it. Victory solves one problem, then introduces another. The throne of heaven is no exception. As Zeus ascends toward Olympus, you sense the significance of the moment. The mountain rises above clouds and storms. Its peaks seem almost detached from ordinary existence. Ancient Greeks never viewed Olympus merely as a location. It was a symbol, a meeting point between the visible world and the divine, a place where decisions affecting all creation might be made. Now Zeus must transform that symbol into a functioning reality. The task proves far more difficult than war. War presents obvious enemies. Leadership presents endless complexities. One of the first lessons arrives quickly. Not everyone agrees. The realization seems simple, yet it changes everything. During the war, disagreements could often be postponed. A common enemy united people. Now the enemy is gone. Differences emerge naturally. Demeter thinks about harvests and seasons. Hestia cares for harmony and sacred order. Poseidon watches the seas with growing confidence. Hera develops strong opinions regarding authority and dignity. Each perspective contains wisdom. Each perspective occasionally conflicts with another. And every disagreement eventually reaches Zeus. The hidden child from Crete once longed for purpose. Now purpose arrives every hour. A dispute here, a request there, a question requiring judgment, a problem demanding attention. Leadership becomes a continuous process, not a destination. The realization exhausts him more than battle ever did. One evening, after a long day of decisions, Zeus walks alone along a narrow mountain path. The sky glows with the colors of sunset. Orange fades into crimson. Crimson fades into violet. The air feels cool against his skin. Clouds drift slowly beneath the peaks. You walk beside him in silence. Sometimes silence provides greater comfort than words. The young king has little opportunity for solitude now. Everyone needs something. Everyone seeks guidance. Everyone expects certainty. Yet certainty remains elusive. Ancient rulers often face this challenge. People look to leaders for answers, even when answers do not exist. The Greeks recognized the tragedy hidden within authority. Power creates expectations that no individual can fully satisfy. Zeus begins experiencing this truth firsthand. The throne elevates him, but it also isolates him. The higher one climbs, the fewer companions remain nearby. This theme appears throughout mythology. Kings, heroes, gods. Many achieve greatness. Many also experience loneliness. Zeus is no exception. One night, while sacred fires burn across Olympus, a strange visitor arrives. Not an enemy, not a warrior, a prophet. Ancient traditions frequently describe such encounters. Individuals touched by dreams, voices, visions, messages whose origins remain mysterious. The prophet bows before Zeus and shares a warning. The details vary depending on the version, yet the message remains consistent. The future king of heaven must never forget what fear did to Cronus. The words strike deeply, because they reveal Zeus's greatest danger, not external enemies, internal transformation. The Greeks understood something profound about power. The greatest threat to a ruler often emerges from within: pride, suspicion, isolation, fear. These forces destroyed Cronus long before war defeated him. Could they someday destroy Zeus as well? The possibility lingers, uncomfortable, necessary. You notice how often mythology uses warnings rather than guarantees. The future remains uncertain. Choices still matter. Destiny creates opportunities. Character determines outcomes. The distinction shapes the entire story. As months pass, Olympus begins changing. Temples rise. Sacred spaces emerge. Ceremonies establish new traditions. The mountain slowly transforms into the heart of a new divine order. Yet another challenge appears. Justice. War required strength. Peace requires fairness. And fairness proves far more complicated. Mortals begin bringing prayers, requests, complaints, questions. They seek rain, protection, guidance, mercy. The needs seem endless. Zeus realizes something startling. To rule heaven is to become responsible for people he will never meet. Farmers working distant fields, sailors crossing dangerous waters. Families gathered around hearthfires. Their lives remain shaped by decisions made high above the clouds. The realization humbles him, at least for now. Some researchers believe this aspect of Zeus helps explain his popularity in ancient Greece. He was not merely a storm god. He became associated with law, order, hospitality, justice, the protection of strangers, the keeping of oaths. His authority extended beyond weather. It touched the foundations of society itself. You see the beginnings of that evolution here. One evening, another dream visits him. The dream feels unusually peaceful. Zeus stands within a vast olive grove. Moonlight shines across silver leaves. A gentle breeze moves through the branches. The air smells of earth and growing things. Then he notices two wolves, one black, one white. They walk beside him. Neither attacks, neither leaves. Both remain present. A voice speaks softly. The throne belongs to neither. The dream ends. When morning arrives, Zeus reflects upon the image. Different interpretations seem possible. Some ancient listeners might have viewed the wolves as symbols of conflict, others as representations of competing impulses, mercy and punishment, strength and compassion, order and freedom. Whatever the meaning, the lesson feels clear. A ruler cannot belong entirely to one extreme. Balance matters. The Greeks often admired moderation, not weakness. Balance, the ability to hold opposing truths without becoming consumed by either. Zeus begins striving toward this ideal, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. His future mistakes remain ahead. His future wisdom remains ahead as well. Both are necessary. Both will shape his legacy. As another season passes, storms begin gathering around Olympus. Not destructive storms, natural storms. The kind that drift across mountains before dissolving into sunlight. Zeus often watches them. Their movement fascinates him. The clouds remind him of responsibility itself. Always shifting, always changing, never fully controlled. The hidden child once dreamed of freedom. The king of heaven discovers duty. Neither life is easier. Each carries its own burdens. Yet there are moments standing above the clouds beneath endless stars when he feels something approaching peace. Not certainty, not perfection, only understanding. The understanding that leadership is not about possessing power. It is about carrying it. And far beyond Olympus, in places still untouched by his influence, New challenges are already preparing to test whether that understanding can endure. Power changes many things, but it does not erase loneliness. You discover this truth alongside Zeus as the years pass upon Olympus. The mountain has become alive with activity. Sacred fires burn through the night. Marble halls reflect torchlight across polished floors. Priests in distant lands offer prayers beneath star-filled skies. Across the world, the authority of Zeus continues growing. Yet authority and companionship are not the same. A throne can command obedience. It cannot guarantee understanding. And so as his reign matures, relationships begin shaping his life as deeply as any battle ever did. The Greeks rarely separated power from relationships. Their myths understood something fundamental. No ruler exists alone. Every decision influences friends, rivals, family, and lovers. The story of Zeus becomes increasingly a story about connections. Connections that strengthen him. Connections that challenge him. Connections that reveal who he truly is. Among all these relationships, one gradually becomes central. Hera. Hera. You have already met her as one of the children freed from Cronus. But years have changed her, just as they have changed Zeus. The sister who endured imprisonment has become a figure of remarkable dignity and intelligence. She possesses patience where others rush, insight where others overlook details, and a fierce sense of justice that sometimes rivals Zeus himself. The relationship develops slowly in many traditions. Ancient storytellers preserved different versions. Some emphasized romance, others focused on partnership. A few traditions presented their union as part of a larger cosmic order. Historians continue debating which stories emerged first, yet nearly all agree on one point. The bond between Zeus and Hera would shape Olympus for generations. You watch them speak during long evenings upon the mountain. Clouds drift below the palace terraces. The scent of olive oil and incense fills the air. Torches flicker softly against marble columns. Their conversations often concern governance, justice, responsibility, the future. Unlike many others, Hera does not simply agree with Zeus. She challenges him, questions him, forces him to reconsider. At first, this surprises him. Then he begins valuing it, because honest disagreement often proves more useful than easy praise. The Greeks admired this idea. Wisdom grows through conversation, through challenge, through the testing of ideas. Hera provides exactly that. Eventually, their bond deepens. The marriage of Zeus and Hera becomes one of the defining relationships of Greek mythology. Beautiful at times, difficult at others. Profoundly human despite its divine scale, for no relationship remains simple forever, not even among gods. Especially among gods. One evening, during a grand celebration upon Olympus, another omen appears. The sky remains clear. The stars shine brightly. Music echoes through the halls. Then suddenly, a pair of eagles circles above the mountain. They fly together, perfectly synchronized, before disappearing into the darkness. Many present interpret the sign as a blessing, a symbol of unity, a promise of harmony. Perhaps they are correct. Perhaps not. The Greeks rarely treated omens as fixed truths. Symbols invite interpretation, and interpretation changes with time. For although Zeus and Hera share genuine respect, challenges already wait beyond the horizon, because relationships evolve, and evolution creates complexity. Meanwhile, Zeus's connection with his brothers continues changing. Poseidon thrives within his ocean kingdom. The sea reflects his temperament beautifully. Powerful, passionate, sometimes unpredictable. Sailors begin offering prayers to him. Coastal communities seek his favor. His influence expands, and with influence comes confidence, perhaps even pride. You notice subtle tensions emerging occasionally between the brothers. Nothing dramatic, nothing openly hostile. Only differences. Poseidon values independence. Zeus values unity. Poseidon embraces emotion. Zeus increasingly embraces responsibility. Neither approach is wrong. Yet differences accumulate, like small stones gathering beside a river. The consequences may not appear immediately, but they remain, waiting. Hades, meanwhile, governs the underworld. The hidden realm suits him, not because he loves isolation, because he understands duty. Ancient myths often portray Hades as misunderstood, feared because of his kingdom rather than his character. Already you can see hints of this pattern. The living rarely celebrate death, yet someone must maintain order among the dead. Hades accepts this burden, quietly, without complaint. Zeus respects him for it. Their relationship remains strong, though distance gradually separates them. One rules the sky, one rules beneath the earth. Physical separation often creates emotional separation as well, even among family. The years continue flowing onward. Olympus flourishes, the world stabilizes, yet stability creates new challenges. Without major wars demanding attention, personal choices become more visible, more significant, and Zeus begins discovering something difficult. He is not immune to desire. The Greeks never portrayed their gods as perfect. Quite the opposite. Their gods often reflected human strengths and weaknesses on a larger scale. Zeus embodies this tradition fully. His curiosity extends beyond governance, beyond responsibility, toward relationships, toward beauty, toward connection. The consequences prove complicated. Some ancient stories describe romances, others describe brief encounters. Still others preserve symbolic traditions, later woven into larger narratives. Modern interpretations vary widely, yet one theme appears repeatedly. Personal choices create public consequences, especially for rulers, especially for Zeus. These choices begin straining relationships. Particularly with Hera, trust becomes harder to maintain. Disagreements become more frequent. The partnership that once seemed effortless reveals deeper complexities. The Greeks understood this too. Love does not eliminate conflict. Often it creates new forms of conflict. The strongest relationships are not those without challenges. They are those that survive challenges. Whether Zeus and Hera achieve this remains an ongoing question. One evening, after a difficult argument, Zeus walks alone beyond the halls of Olympus. The night feels unusually cool. Clouds drift across the moon. The wind carries the scent of distant rain. You accompany him through quiet pathways lined with ancient stone. For a long time, neither of you speaks. The King of Heaven appears thoughtful, perhaps troubled. Leadership has taught him many lessons, yet relationships remain more difficult than laws, more difficult than battles, more difficult than storms, because relationships involve hearts, and hearts rarely obey simple rules. That night another dream arrives. Zeus stands beside a great river. The water appears calm, perfectly calm. Then he notices something strange. Beneath the surface, powerful currents move in opposite directions, invisible from above, yet shaping everything below. A voice whispers. What appears peaceful may still be changing. The dream fades. The message remains. Olympus appears stable. The cosmos appears balanced. Yet beneath the surface, countless forces continue moving. Relationships evolve. Desires evolve. Responsibilities evolve. And every choice creates consequences stretching far into the future. The Greeks loved this idea. Nothing exists in isolation. Every action becomes part of a larger story. Zeus understands this better with each passing year. Yet understanding consequences does not always prevent them. Soon new conflicts will emerge, not from titans, not from ancient enemies, but from challenges created by power itself. Challenges far more difficult to defeat, because some battles are fought within the heart, and those battles rarely end quickly. Far beyond Olympus, beneath starlit skies and over dark seas, destiny is already preparing another test for the King of Heaven. For many years, Zeus believed the greatest danger had already passed. The Titans were defeated. The cosmos had been divided. Olympus stood secure above the clouds. Storms came and went. Seasons followed their ancient rhythms. The world appeared stable. Yet stability can create an illusion. The Greeks understood this. They knew that order is never permanent. Beneath every peaceful surface, uncertainty waits. Sometimes quietly, sometimes patiently, and sometimes in the form of a monster. You stand upon Olympus during a calm evening. The air feels warm. The scent of olive oil drifts from nearby temples. Far below, distant cities glow beneath the fading light of sunset. The sky appears clear, perfectly clear. Then the birds disappear. Not gradually. Suddenly, a silence falls across the mountain. The change feels small at first, easy to ignore. Yet every creature seems to notice. The wind weakens. The trees become still. Even the sacred fires flicker strangely. The world appears to be listening. Ancient storytellers loved such moments. The pause before catastrophe, the breath before the scream. And then the signs begin. Earth tremors ripple through distant valleys. The sea grows restless. Volcanic fires glow beneath mountains. Prophets wake from terrible dreams. Across Greece, sacred shrines report omens unlike any seen before. No one agrees on their meaning, but everyone agrees on one thing. Something ancient is moving. Something older than war, older than Olympus, older perhaps than fear itself. The source of these disturbances emerges from one of the darkest chapters of Greek mythology. The creature's name is Typhon. Typhon. Even ancient poets struggled to describe him. Some imagined him as a giant reaching the stars. Others described countless serpent heads twisting from his body. Certain traditions portrayed him as a living storm, a force of chaos given form. Historians continue debating how different regions imagined him. The descriptions vary. The feeling remains consistent. Typhon is not simply another enemy. He represents something deeper. The return of chaos itself. You listen as rumors spread across Olympus. Messengers arrive breathless. Priests speak in whispers. The atmosphere changes. For the first time since the Titan War, genuine fear returns. Not ordinary fear, existential fear. The fear that everything built over years might vanish. Zeus feels it too. And this matters. Because courage is meaningful only when fear exists. Without fear, bravery becomes impossible. The hidden child from Crete feared discovery. The young commander feared defeat. Now the King of Heaven fears something even larger. Failure. Not personal failure. Cosmic failure. The possibility that all he has built could collapse. One night, as storm clouds gather beyond the horizon, another dream visits him. The dream feels darker than those before. You enter it beside him. He stands alone upon Olympus. The mountain is empty. No gods, no sacred fires, no temples. Only silence. Then the sky begins cracking. Thin fractures spread across the heavens. Light pours through the openings, but the light feels wrong. Cold, unfamiliar. A voice speaks. Not threatening, not comforting, simply inevitable. Every kingdom believes itself eternal. Then the dream ends. Zeus awakens before dawn. The stars still hang overhead. The mountain remains secure, yet the dream lingers. Its warning impossible to ignore. Every kingdom believes itself eternal. Cronus likely believed the same. The realization unsettles him, because it forces him to confront an uncomfortable possibility. What if Olympus is merely another chapter? What if the age of Zeus could someday end as well? The Greeks often explored this theme. Nothing remains unchanged forever. Not kings, not cities, not empires, perhaps not even gods. These thoughts follow him as reports continue arriving. Typhon is moving. Closer. The descriptions become increasingly alarming. Entire regions shaken by his passage. Mountains trembling, forests burning, storms appearing where skies were clear. The stories sound impossible. Yet mythological chaos often feels impossible. That is its nature. The creature exists beyond ordinary understanding, and perhaps that is the point. Typhon represents every force that resists order, every fear that refuses control, every uncertainty that remains despite power. Eventually, confrontation becomes unavoidable. You stand beside Zeus as he prepares. The atmosphere differs from the Titan War. Then he was proving himself. Now he is defending something larger. A world, a system, a future. Responsibility has changed him. The distinction is important. The younger Zeus sought victory. The older Zeus seeks preservation. The battle begins beneath darkened skies. Thunder rolls across the heavens. Winds howl between mountain peaks. Lightning illuminates vast clouds. Ancient poets describe the struggle in grand dramatic language. The sky itself becomes a battlefield. Nature appears caught between order and chaos. And at the center stands Zeus, thunderbolt in hand, determination in his eyes. Yet something unexpected happens. Different traditions preserve different versions. Some suggest Typhon initially overwhelms Zeus. Others describe temporary defeat. A few stories even portray the King of Heaven fleeing before returning to continue the struggle. Modern readers sometimes find these versions surprising. Why allow Zeus to fail? The answer may reveal something important about Greek mythology. Perfection is uninteresting. Growth requires challenge. Even kings must confront limitations, especially kings. The possibility of defeat gives meaning to eventual victory. And Zeus learns valuable lessons during the struggle. Power alone is insufficient. Experience alone is insufficient. Even destiny is insufficient. Persistence matters. Adaptability matters. The willingness to continue after failure matters. These lessons shaped his rise against Cronus. Now they shape his survival against Typhon. The conflict stretches across mountains and seas, across sky and earth, across imagination itself. Then at last the balance begins shifting. The thunderbolt flashes again, and again, and again. The heavens roar. The world trembles. Chaos retreats, not because it disappears forever. Chaos never does, but because order endures. For now, Typhon falls. The threat ends. The cosmos survives. The victory feels different from the defeat of Cronus. Less triumphant, more reflective. Because Zeus understands something now that he did not understand before. Chaos cannot be permanently destroyed. It can only be managed, balanced, contained. The lesson carries profound meaning, not only for mythology, for life itself. The Greeks often expressed wisdom through monsters. Typhon becomes one such lesson, the embodiment of uncertainty, the reminder that stability requires constant effort. As the storm clouds finally begin dispersing, sunlight returns to the world. Mountains emerge from shadow. The sea grows calm. Birds return to the sky. Olympus stands unchanged. Yet Zeus is not unchanged. The battle has transformed him, not through victory, through perspective. For the first time, he fully understands the fragility of what he protects. And understanding fragility often creates wisdom. The hidden child became a warrior. The warrior became a king. Now the king is becoming something else. A guardian, a symbol, a living part of the balance he once fought to create. Yet beyond the celebrations, beyond the relief, beyond the quiet return of peace, another transformation is already taking place. For after confronting chaos itself, Zeus must now confront something even more difficult. His own legacy. The storms have passed. Olympus stands secure once more. The seas calm. The mountains rest beneath clear skies. Across the world, people return to ordinary life. Fishermen launch their boats at dawn. Farmers walk among olive groves and grain fields. Sacred fires burn quietly within temples. The great crisis has ended, at least for now. Yet something inside Zeus has changed forever. You notice it immediately, not in the way he speaks, not in the way he rules, but in the way he sees. The battle against Typhon revealed a truth impossible to ignore. Power does not guarantee permanence. Even the king of heaven can be challenged. Even the ruler of Olympus can face uncertainty. This realization does not weaken him. It deepens him. The Greeks often viewed wisdom as the child of experience, not age, not authority. Experience. The lessons that survive storms, the lessons paid for through struggle. Zeus now carries many such lessons. You stand beside him upon a high terrace overlooking the world. The sky stretches endlessly above. Clouds drift slowly beneath the mountain peaks. The air feels cool and clean. For a long time, he simply watches. The sea, the valleys, the distant cities, the countless lives unfolding beneath his protection. Years ago, he might have viewed the world differently. As territory, as responsibility, as a kingdom. Now he sees something larger. A living balance. An intricate web connecting gods, mortals, oceans, mountains, seasons, and stars. The realization feels profound. Because leadership is no longer about ruling. It is about maintaining harmony. This idea appears often in Greek thought. Order was never understood as rigid control. True order required balance, movement, adaptation. The same principle governs nature itself. Storms come, storms pass. Winter arrives, spring follows. Nothing remains fixed. Everything participates in a greater rhythm. Zeus begins understanding that he must do the same. One evening, while walking alone along the slopes of Olympus, he encounters an elderly shepherd. The story survives in only fragmentary traditions. Some researchers believe versions of it once circulated orally before disappearing. Whether literal or symbolic, it captures an important truth. The shepherd does not recognize Zeus immediately. He simply sees a traveler. The two speak beside a small fire. The scent of wood smoke drifts through the cool air. Stars shine overhead. The shepherd shares stories about weather, harvests, family, ordinary concerns. And as Zeus listens, something becomes clear. Most people do not spend their days thinking about gods. They think about survival, love, children, food, home, the simple realities of life. The realization humbles him, perhaps more than any battle ever could. For what value does power possess if it forgets the people it affects? The conversation stays with him long afterward. Ancient Greek religion often emphasized this connection. Gods existed not merely in grand myths. They existed within daily experience. A successful harvest, a safe voyage, a promise kept, a stranger welcomed. The divine and the ordinary remained connected. Zeus increasingly embraces this understanding. His role extends beyond thunder, beyond authority, beyond spectacle. He becomes associated with justice, hospitality, protection, the keeping of sacred oaths. These responsibilities may seem less dramatic than defeating monsters, yet they ultimately define his reign more deeply. Many ancient temples dedicated to Zeus focused on these qualities. Surviving evidence suggests worshippers often approached him not simply as a sky god, but as a guardian of moral order, a protector of agreements, a witness to truth. The transformation feels significant. The young rebel challenging Cronus sought freedom. The mature ruler seeks fairness. One goal leads naturally to the other. Freedom without justice becomes chaos. Justice without freedom becomes tyranny. Balance remains essential. always balanced. Meanwhile, his relationships continue evolving. Hera remains by his side. Their partnership has survived triumphs and conflicts alike. Not perfectly, few relationships do. Yet there is resilience within it. Understanding, shared history. The years have woven their lives together in ways neither fully anticipated. Poseidon continues shaping the seas. His confidence remains strong. At times, disagreements still emerge between the brothers. Yet mutual respect endures. Both understand the burdens carried by rulers, even when their approaches differ. Hades remains distant geographically, but not emotionally. The underworld keeps him separate from Olympus. Yet Zeus often reflects upon his brother's dedication, the quiet strength required to govern a realm few appreciate. Family has become more complicated than it once seemed, but also more meaningful. The Greeks rarely portrayed maturity as simplicity. Maturity meant learning to value imperfect relationships. Another dream arrives one night. Perhaps the final great dream of this phase of his life. You enter it beside him. He stands upon a mountain peak beneath a clear night sky. The stars shine brighter than ever before, thousands upon thousands. Then something remarkable happens. The stars begin reflecting his image, not one image, many. The child hidden on Crete, the young rebel confronting Cronus, the commander leading armies, the king seated upon a throne. Each version appears among the constellations. Then they slowly merge, becoming one. The sky itself. A voice speaks softly. You no longer stand beneath it. The dream fades. When morning comes, Zeus understands. Not completely. Dreams rarely offer complete understanding. But enough. The sky is no longer simply his kingdom. It has become part of his identity. And he part of its identity. The symbolism resonates deeply. The Greeks often associated gods with forces larger than individual personalities. Zeus became more than a character. He became a symbol of authority, of balance, of order emerging from uncertainty, of the sky watching over the world. This transformation marks the true completion of his rise. Not the defeat of Cronus, not the victory over Typhon. This, the moment he stops seeking greatness and begins serving something greater than himself. The distinction matters because it separates rulers from guardians. As years continue passing, stories about Zeus spread farther, across islands, across mountains, across generations. Children hear tales of thunder and kingship. Sailors offer prayers before voyages. Cities dedicate festivals in his honor. His influence grows beyond anything imagined during the hidden years on Crete. Yet influence creates another question, perhaps the most important question of all. What remains after a lifetime ends? What survives beyond power, beyond victories, beyond kingdoms? Zeus begins contemplating this mystery more often. Not with fear, with curiosity, for every story eventually becomes memory, and every ruler eventually becomes legacy. The hidden child has become the sky itself. But the story is no longer only about who Zeus is. The story is becoming about what Zeus leaves behind. And somewhere beneath the stars, among heroes not yet born and futures not yet written, that legacy is already beginning to take shape. The years move quietly now, not slowly, not quickly, like a river flowing beneath moonlight, steady, unstoppable. You stand upon Olympus and watch seasons turn across the world below. Winter snow gathers upon distant peaks. Spring returns with wildflowers and fresh green valleys. Summer fills harbors with sails. Autumn paints olive groves gold beneath fading sunlight. The great wars belong to memory. The foundations of Olympus stand secure. And yet the story of Zeus is far from finished. Because victory created something unexpected, a future. The Greeks often understood this truth. The end of one struggle becomes the beginning of another, not necessarily a battle, sometimes a responsibility. Sometimes an inheritance, sometimes a legacy. Zeus now finds himself confronting all three, for the world has entered a new age. And within this age, heroes begin appearing. Not all at once, not from a single place, but gradually, like stars emerging after sunset. Across mountains, islands, forests, and cities, extraordinary lives begin unfolding. The Greeks loved heroes, not because heroes were perfect, because heroes were human. They struggled, failed, learned, endured. In many ways, they reflected the journey of Zeus himself, only on a smaller scale. And as these heroes appear, Zeus increasingly becomes part of their stories. You notice a fascinating change. The young god who once sought guidance now becomes a source of guidance. The rebel who challenged authority becomes the authority others consult. The transformation feels complete, and yet it also feels strangely natural, because wisdom often follows responsibility. One evening, as golden sunlight fades behind the mountains, Zeus walks along a marble terrace overlooking the world. The air smells of warm stone and distant pine forests. Clouds drift below Olympus like slow-moving rivers. For a long time he watches silently. Then his gaze settles upon the lands below. Countless lives, countless stories, each unfolding beyond his direct control. The realization remains humbling. Even the King of Heaven cannot shape every outcome. The Greeks understood this limitation. Their gods possessed great power, but not absolute control. Human choices still mattered. Fate still mattered. Chance still mattered. The world remained wonderfully unpredictable. And perhaps that unpredictability gives meaning to courage. For if everything were predetermined, heroism would lose much of its value. Zeus increasingly appreciates this balance. He protects, guides, influences, yet he cannot live other lives for others. This lesson becomes especially important as heroes emerge. Ancient traditions connect Zeus to many legendary figures. Some stories emphasize direct ancestry. Others focus on divine favor. Still others present symbolic relationships rather than literal ones. The details vary. The pattern remains consistent. Zeus becomes associated with potential, with extraordinary possibility, with the belief that greatness can arise from unexpected places. You imagine him watching future heroes take their first uncertain steps. Young people unaware of their destinies, much as he once stood upon Crete unaware of his own. The symmetry feels beautiful. Life often circles back upon itself. In different forms, one night another omen appears. A meteor crosses the heavens, brilliant, silent. Its light reflects across the sea below. Sailors pause to watch. Priests offer prayers. Children point toward the sky in wonder. Ancient Greeks interpreted such signs in many ways. Some saw messages. Others saw warnings. A few viewed them simply as reminders of the vastness surrounding human life. Zeus watches the meteor disappear beyond the horizon and finds himself reflecting upon legacy. The question grows increasingly important. What survives after influence fades? What remains after stories change? The Greeks asked these questions constantly. Their myths became one way of answering them. Through memory, through storytelling, through meaning. As years pass, Olympus continues evolving. New traditions emerge. New ceremonies appear. The world adapts to the divine order established after the Titan War. Yet adaptation does not mean perfection. Challenges remain. Disputes arise. Mortals continue making mistakes. Gods continue making mistakes. The cosmos remains beautifully incomplete. Perhaps it must remain that way. Perfection leaves no room for growth. Zeus understands this better than before. The young king once believed stability was the ultimate goal. The older ruler recognizes that balance requires movement, adjustment, learning. Even the heavens must adapt. His relationships reflect this truth as well. Hera remains one of the most important figures in his life. Years of shared responsibility have deepened their connection, not removed every disagreement, not solved every difficulty, but strengthened understanding. There is a difference. The strongest bonds are rarely those without challenges. They are those that survive challenges. The Greeks understood this deeply. Love was never portrayed as simple. Its complexity made it meaningful. Meanwhile, his brothers continue their own journeys. Poseidon shapes the seas. Hades governs the underworld. Each increasingly resembles the realm entrusted to him, and each in turn shapes that realm. The relationship between ruler and kingdom works both ways. A lesson Zeus learned long ago. One evening, a traveler arrives at Olympus, carrying stories from distant lands. The traveler speaks of heroes overcoming impossible odds, of cities rising from hardship, of individuals choosing courage despite fear. The stories vary. The theme remains consistent. Human beings continue surprising the gods. Zeus listens carefully. The tales remind him of something important. Greatness is not limited to Olympus, not limited to divine beings. Sometimes greatness emerges from ordinary lives, from ordinary choices. The realization fills him with quiet satisfaction, because the world he fought to protect is producing exactly what he hoped. Not obedience, possibility. The Greeks often celebrated this idea. A meaningful world is one where courage remains possible, where virtue remains possible, where growth remains possible. Heroes embody those possibilities, and Zeus becomes their witness, their protector, at times their guide. A final dream arrives near the end of this chapter of his life. You enter it beside him. He stands within a vast field beneath countless stars. Children run across the landscape carrying small lights. Each light burns brightly. Each follows a different path. Some lights move toward mountains, others toward oceans, others vanish beyond the horizon. Zeus watches them, unable to direct them, unable to stop them, able only to observe. Then he realizes something. The lights continue because the night exists. The dream ends. The meaning lingers. Leadership does not mean controlling every journey. It means creating conditions where journeys can occur. The insight feels profound, perhaps even peaceful. For the hidden child who once sought freedom has spent much of his life protecting freedom for others. And that may be the greatest legacy any ruler can hope to leave. Yet the story is not finished, because legacy contains shadows as well as light. And before Zeus can fully understand what he leaves behind, he must first confront the consequences that remain waiting in the darkness of memory. The longer Zeus rules, the less his story belongs only to him. It begins spreading outward, across mountains, across islands, across generations, across dreams. You notice the change gradually. At first, Zeus was a hidden child, known only to a few guardians. Then he became a rebel spoken of by allies and enemies. Later, he became a king whose decisions shaped the heavens. Now he is becoming something different, a symbol, and symbols live inside the minds of others. The Greeks understood this deeply. A god was not merely a powerful being. A god was also an idea, a reflection, a way people understood the mysteries surrounding them. As years pass, mortals begin imagining Zeus in countless ways. You travel across the ancient world to witness it. Far from Olympus, in a small harbor town, fishermen rise before dawn. The sea smells of salt and seaweed. Wooden boats creak softly against the docks. The horizon glows with the first hints of sunlight. Before departing, the fishermen offer prayers. Some pray for favorable winds. Some pray for safe passage. Some simply seek reassurance. To them, Zeus is a protector, a distant guardian watching from above the clouds. The image comforts them. Yet elsewhere, another vision exists. In a mountain village surrounded by forests, a judge prepares to settle a dispute. The scent of pine fills the cool air. Villagers gather beneath an ancient oak tree. As the hearing begins, the judge invokes Zeus, not as Lord of Storms, as guardian of justice, as witness to truth. To these people, Zeus represents fairness, responsibility, order. The same god, a different meaning. The contrast fascinates you. The Greeks rarely demanded a single interpretation. Their myths remained flexible, alive, capable of adapting to different needs. You continue traveling, across olive groves shimmering beneath sunlight, across valleys rich with wildflowers, across islands surrounded by brilliant blue water. Everywhere people tell stories. Everywhere Zeus appears differently. Parents teach children about him. Poets compose verses about him. Priests conduct ceremonies in his honor. Merchants swear oaths using his name. The stories evolve, expand, transform. Yet certain themes remain remarkably consistent. Protection, authority, balance, the sky. These ideas become inseparable from his identity. One evening you arrive at a temple perched above a rocky coastline. The structure glows beneath torchlight. Marble columns rise toward a star-filled sky. The scent of incense drifts through the warm night air. Pilgrims have gathered from distant lands. Each carries hopes, questions, fears. Some seek healing. Some seek guidance. Some seek meaning. Watching them, you realize something important. Many people are not praying for miracles. They are praying for understanding. The Greeks often approached religion this way, not merely as a transaction, as a relationship, a conversation with forces larger than themselves. Zeus has become part of that conversation, even when he remains unseen. This realization reaches Olympus as well. Zeus increasingly hears stories about himself, stories shaped by imagination, stories shaped by memory, stories shaped by local traditions. Not all of them are accurate. Not all of them are flattering. Some portray him as wise. Others emphasize his power. Still others focus upon mistakes and shortcomings. The diversity surprises him. Perhaps it should not. No individual controls how others remember them, not even a god. The insight proves strangely humbling, because memory belongs partly to the remembered and partly to those who remember. One night, while clouds drift slowly around Olympus, Zeus experiences another dream. The dream feels unusual. Not because it is dramatic, because it is simple. You enter it beside him. He stands within a vast hall filled with mirrors. Thousands of mirrors. Each reflects a different image. In one he appears as a warrior. In another a king. In another a father. In another a judge. In another merely a traveler standing beneath the stars. The reflections continue endlessly. No single image appears complete. Yet together they form something larger. The dream fades. Its meaning lingers. No person is only one thing. No legacy is only one story. The Greeks often express profound truths through simple images. This dream feels like one of them. As years continue passing, temple traditions become increasingly important. Surviving evidence suggests many communities developed unique relationships with Zeus. Some emphasized weather, others emphasized law, others focused on hospitality and sacred obligations. Historians continue studying these differences today. The variety reveals something fascinating. Zeus became adaptable, not because he changed, because human needs changed. Each generation found something different within the symbol. You visit a sacred festival dedicated to him. The atmosphere feels joyful. Music echoes across open fields. Families gather beneath temporary shelters. Athletes compete before cheering crowds. Children chase one another through the grass. The scent of roasted food fills the air. For a moment, the celebration seems entirely ordinary. Then you realize its deeper meaning. People are not simply honoring a god. They are strengthening community, creating shared memory, building identity. The divine becomes woven into daily life. This may be one reason Zeus endured so long within Greek culture. He existed not only in myths, he existed in relationships, in rituals, in traditions, in dreams. The title of king matters, but influence matters more. And influence often grows quietly, like roots beneath the earth. One evening, an elderly poet arrives at Olympus. The man carries scrolls filled with stories collected throughout his life. He speaks of distant islands, forgotten shrines, ancient songs preserved by memory alone. As Zeus listens, he hears countless versions of himself, some familiar, some surprising, a few entirely unexpected. The experience feels strangely moving, because every story reveals less about power and more about meaning. The poet eventually shares one final observation. People remember gods differently than they remember rulers. Rulers are remembered for what they accomplish. Gods are remembered for what they represent. The words remain long after the poet departs, for Zeus senses their truth immediately. The battles, the victories, the throne, all important. Yet symbols survive longer than events, and he is slowly becoming one. The process feels both comforting and unsettling. Comforting because meaning endures. Unsettling because meaning can never be fully controlled. Far below Olympus, millions of lives continue unfolding. Children are born, families grow, cities rise, cities fade, generations come and go. And through it all, people continue looking upward, toward the sky, toward the clouds, toward the vast blue expanse stretching above every horizon. Some see weather, some see mystery, some see Zeus. Perhaps all are correct. For the King of Heaven has become woven into the dreams of mortals, and dreams possess a power that even thunder cannot command. Yet every dream casts a shadow, and as memory grows stronger, so too does another force. The force of consequence. The force of choices made long ago. The force of unfinished questions waiting patiently within the darkness of the past. Not every legacy shines brightly. Some parts remain hidden, quiet, uncomfortable, waiting. You discover this truth with Zeus as the centuries continue unfolding. The world remembers victories easily. The defeat of Cronus, the triumph over Typhon, the establishment of Olympus. Such stories fit neatly into memory. They offer clarity, resolution, meaning, yet life rarely follows such simple patterns. The Greeks understood this. Their myths rarely portray greatness without cost. Every achievement leaves something behind. Every choice creates consequences, some immediate, some delayed, some visible only after many years have passed. Zeus begins confronting these consequences now, not because new disasters emerge, because time provides perspective. Perspective can be one of the most challenging gifts. It reveals connections once hidden. You stand beside him upon a quiet terrace overlooking the sea. The sun has already set. Moonlight paints silver paths across the water. The air feels cool. The scent of distant pine forests drifts upward from below. Olympus remains beautiful. Yet tonight the King of Heaven appears reflective. His thoughts travel backward, toward old decisions, toward old relationships, toward old wounds. One of the most difficult lessons of leadership is this. Good intentions do not eliminate consequences. Zeus has learned this repeatedly. The rebellion against Cronus was necessary, yet it brought suffering. The war created freedom, yet it also created loss. The throne brought stability, yet it introduced isolation. The pattern appears again and again. The Greeks often explored such complexities. They distrusted simple moral lessons. Life seemed more complicated than that, and mythology reflected life. One memory returns often. Cronus. Cronus. Years have passed since the fall of the Titan king. The old ruler no longer shapes daily events, yet his influence remains. Because parents shape children, even absent parents, even destructive parents. The hidden child from Crete spent much of his life defining himself against Cronus. But opposition creates its own connection. Sometimes the people we resist influence us most deeply. The realization troubles Zeus. Not because he has become Cronus, he has not, but because he occasionally recognizes familiar patterns. Moments of impatience, moments of pride, moments when authority feels easier than understanding. The similarities remain small, yet they exist. Ancient listeners likely recognize the warning immediately. Every generation risks repeating parts of the one before it, even while trying to escape them. This insight gives the story emotional depth. For Zeus's greatest challenge was never simply defeating his father. It was avoiding becoming him. The struggle continues, quietly, every day. Meanwhile, relationships carry their own consequences. The years have brought joy, companionship, growth. They have also brought conflict, misunderstanding, disappointment. The relationship with Hera remains especially complex. Hera, their bond has survived much. Yet survival does not erase difficulty. Ancient myths frequently explore tensions between them. Modern readers sometimes focus only on the drama, but beneath the drama lies something more human. Two powerful individuals attempting to share responsibility. Two lives intertwined by history. Two perspectives that do not always align. The Greeks understood how difficult such relationships can become. Love creates connection. Connection creates vulnerability. Vulnerability creates risk. Yet people continue loving anyway. Perhaps because the alternative feels emptier. One evening, another omen appears. A storm gathers beyond the horizon. Nothing unusual about that. Storms belong to Zeus. Yet this one behaves strangely. Lightning flashes within distant clouds, again and again. Yet no thunder follows, only silence. The sight feels unsettling, as though cause and effect have separated. Ancient priests debate the meaning. Some interpret it as a warning about unfinished matters. Others see a reminder that appearances can conceal deeper realities. No interpretation gains universal acceptance. The mystery remains, as mysteries often do. The omen lingers in memory because it reflects a larger truth. Consequences do not always arrive loudly. Sometimes they arrive quietly. Years later, hidden within ordinary moments, the world below Olympus offers many examples. Cities rise because of opportunities created long ago. Families flourish because of ancient acts of courage. Conflicts emerge because of forgotten grievances. Everything remains connected. The Greeks frequently emphasize this interconnectedness. Nothing happens in isolation. Every action becomes part of a larger chain. Zeus increasingly sees those chains. One night, a particularly vivid dream visits him. You enter it beside him. He walks through a vast olive grove beneath moonlight. The trees appear healthy, strong, ancient. Then he notices their shadows. The shadows do not match the trees. Some stretch too far. Others move independently. Others seem connected to different trunks entirely. The sight feels impossible, yet strangely meaningful. A voice speaks softly. The fruit and the shadow grow from the same root. The dream fades. Its lesson remains. Success and consequence often share origins. The same decision can create both. Wisdom lies in recognizing this reality, not denying it. When morning arrives, Zeus spends long hours in reflection. The years have taught him many things. Power matters. Justice matters. Balance matters. Yet perhaps self-awareness matters most. Without it, every ruler risks becoming blind. Blind to mistakes, blind to consequences, blind to the humanity of others. The Greeks admired wisdom because wisdom required humility, and humility required honesty, especially honesty about oneself. As time continues passing, stories about Zeus grow more varied. Some emphasize his greatness, others focus on flaws. A few portray contradictions difficult to reconcile. At first, such stories might seem problematic, yet they reveal something important. Perfect figures rarely endure. Complex figures do, because complexity feels real. Zeus survives within memory partly because he remains recognizable, powerful, wise at times, foolish at times, generous, proud, protective, imperfect. The combination makes him memorable, and perhaps meaningful. One evening, as stars emerge above the world, Zeus looks down from Olympus. Thousands of small fires glow across the landscape below. Homes, villages, cities. Each light represents lives continuing their own stories. Most of those people know only fragments of his, just as he knows only fragments of theirs. The realization feels peaceful. No single life contains every answer. No legacy remains entirely pure. No story escapes complexity. And perhaps that is acceptable. Perhaps that is even necessary. For shadows do not negate light. They reveal its shape. The hidden child from Crete once sought certainty. The King of Heaven has learned something more valuable: understanding. And understanding prepares him for the final lesson of his life. The lesson of memory itself. The lesson of what survives after power fades. The lesson of why the ancient world never truly forgot his name. The centuries pass. Empires rise and fall. Cities flourish beside harbors before fading into ruin. Generations are born beneath the same stars that once shone over Crete. And still people remember Zeus. This is the mystery that now occupies your thoughts. Not how he won, not how he ruled, but why he endured. Why did countless storytellers continue speaking his name, long after the events themselves belonged to legend? You stand upon Olympus during a quiet evening. The mountain feels older now, not physically, symbolically, like a place that has absorbed centuries of memory. The air is cool. Clouds drift slowly beneath the peaks. Far away, the sea reflects the last light of sunset. Everything feels peaceful, reflective. The atmosphere invites contemplation. And contemplation leads naturally toward legacy. The Greeks remembered many gods, many heroes, many kings. Yet Zeus occupied a unique place within their imagination. He was not simply one divine figure among many. He became a symbol around which countless ideas gathered. Justice, authority, protection, order, hospitality, the sky itself. Each generation discovered something different within him. Perhaps that explains his endurance. The Greeks rarely worshipped abstract concepts directly. They embodied them through stories, through personalities, through relationships. Zeus became one of the most powerful examples. You travel across the ancient world once more, not through battles, through memory. At a coastal shrine, sailors offer thanks after surviving dangerous storms. To them, Zeus represents safety. At a rural festival celebrating harvests, families pray for favorable seasons. To them, Zeus represents stability. At a courthouse where oaths are sworn before witnesses, his name carries another meaning. Truth, responsibility, accountability, the same figure. Many interpretations. Ancient religion often worked this way, flexible enough to remain meaningful across different lives. One afternoon, you visit a temple overlooking a broad valley. The marble structure shines beneath sunlight. Columns cast long shadows across stone floors. The scent of incense drifts through warm air. Priests tell stories preserved by generations before them. Some details differ from versions heard elsewhere. The differences do not seem troubling. They seem natural, because living traditions evolve. Historians continue studying this process today. Surviving evidence suggests that local communities often emphasize different aspects of Zeus depending on their needs. The variations reveal something fascinating. People were not merely remembering him. They were actively interpreting him. Meaning remained alive. The process continues through every generation. You notice another pattern as well. The stories people tell about Zeus often reveal more than information. They reveal values. The Greeks admired courage, so stories emphasized courage. They admired hospitality, so Zeus became guardian of guests and strangers. They admired justice, so he became associated with law and fairness. Myths functioned almost like mirrors, reflecting cultural ideals back toward those who shared them. This may be why the stories survived. Not because they preserved facts, because they preserved meaning. One evening, an elderly priest shares an observation with you. The priest has spent decades studying sacred traditions, listening to oral histories, preserving ancient songs. His words are simple. People remember what helps them understand themselves. The statement lingers. Perhaps that is the true answer. Zeus survived because he became useful, not politically, not materially, symbolically. He helped people think about power, responsibility, fate, justice, the relationship between strength and wisdom, the relationship between freedom and order. These questions never disappear, and so the stories remain relevant. The Greeks understood something many cultures have understood. Human beings need narratives, not merely information. Narratives, stories that help transform experience into understanding. Zeus became part of that process. One night, another dream arrives. Perhaps the final great dream of his life. You enter it beside him. He stands within a vast temple unlike any existing structure. Its columns stretch upward beyond sight. Its floor reflects the stars. The space feels endless, empty, yet somehow full. Then people begin appearing. Not gods, mortals, thousands of them, from different regions, different generations, different centuries. Each carries a small lamp. The lamps glow softly. One by one, they place the lamps around the temple. The light grows brighter. Then Zeus notices something remarkable. None of the lamps belong to him. They belong to those who remember him. A voice speaks. Memory belongs to the living. The dream fades. Its meaning feels profound. No legacy exists independently. Every legacy survives because others choose to preserve it. Stories continue because listeners continue listening. Memory remains alive because people continue caring. The realization brings humility, perhaps even gratitude. As morning arrives, Zeus reflects upon the countless lives connected to his story. Poets, priests, travelers, parents teaching children beside evening fires, sailors praying beneath stormy skies, farmers working beneath open heavens. None of them experienced the Titan War. None witnessed his childhood on Crete, yet all participate in preserving those memories. The chain extends across generations, ancient and beautiful. Some researchers believe this communal aspect helps explain the extraordinary endurance of Greek mythology. The myths remained adaptable, capable of carrying new meanings into new eras. Zeus changed alongside the culture remembering him, not because the stories lost coherence, because symbols grow. Just as people do, you walk once more across Olympus. The mountain feels familiar, almost intimate. The hidden child, the rebel, the warrior, the king, the guardian, the symbol. All these versions of Zeus coexist now, none completely replacing the others. The journey feels complete, yet one final question remains. Perhaps the oldest question of all. What was gained when Zeus rose, and what was lost? The answer cannot be simple. The Greeks rarely offered simple answers. The age before Zeus disappeared. A new age emerged. Order replaced uncertainty, yet innocence vanished as well. Every beginning requires an ending. Every future leaves something behind. The realization prepares you for the final reflection. For beyond memory lies something deeper. Not power, not fame, not even legacy, meaning. And beneath the stars that have watched every age come and go, the final chapter is waiting quietly in the darkness. The night is quiet, not completely silent. The sea still moves against distant shores. The wind still drifts through olive groves. Somewhere below, sacred fires continue burning in homes and temples. Yet a deep calm has settled over the world, the kind of calm that arrives after a very long journey. You stand once more beneath the stars, and as you look upward, you find yourself thinking not about Zeus alone, but about time, about memory, about the countless lives that unfolded between one age and another. For this story began with a mystery, a forgotten world before Olympus, a lost age before Zeus. Now, after walking beside him through an entire lifetime, you return to that mystery one final time. The world before Zeus often feels distant, almost dreamlike, a realm of titans' prophecies and ancient fears. Yet it was real within the imagination of the Greeks, as real as Olympus itself, as real as the heroes who would come later. The age of Cronus possessed its own beauty, its own order, its own meaning. The Greeks did not always portray it as entirely dark. Some traditions even remembered it as a golden age, a time of abundance, a time before struggle touched every corner of life. Historians continue debating these ancient beliefs. Different communities preserved different memories. Yet one truth remains. The world before Zeus was not simply erased. It became part of the foundation upon which everything else was built. This realization matters because every new age grows from an older one. Nothing appears from nothing. Not kingdoms, not stories, not people. The hidden child who became king existed because countless events came before him. His victories emerged from earlier sacrifices. His wisdom emerged from earlier mistakes. Even his destiny required a past. You sit beside a quiet fire and reflect upon the journey. The scent of smoke drifts into the cool night air. Stars shimmer overhead. The flames move gently, casting soft shadows against the ground. One by one, memories return. The cave on Crete, the secret childhood, the fear of Cronus, the reunion with lost siblings, the long years of war, the first thunderbolt, the throne of Olympus, the battle against Typhon, the dreams, the relationships, the lessons. Together they form a life, not a perfect life, a meaningful one. The Greeks rarely celebrated perfection. Perfection belongs to statues, to ideals, to fantasies. Life belongs to complexity, And Zeus remained wonderfully complex. He was brave, yet uncertain, powerful, yet vulnerable, wise at times, foolish at others, capable of generosity, capable of mistakes. The combination made him memorable, perhaps even relatable. That may be one reason his stories survived so long. People recognized themselves within them, not literally, symbolically. The fears, the ambitions, the hopes, the responsibilities, the desire to create something lasting. These experiences remain familiar across centuries. One final dream arrives, gentler than all the others. You enter it beside Zeus. He stands upon a shoreline at twilight. The sea stretches endlessly before him. The sky glows with soft shades of gold and violet. No storms gather. No prophecies speak. No voices emerge from the darkness. Only peace. As he watches the horizon, figures begin appearing behind him. Rhea, Cronus, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Poseidon, Hades, friends, allies, rivals, family. Every important relationship from his life. None speak. They simply stand together, looking toward the sea. Then slowly, one by one, they become stars. Their light rises into the heavens, joining countless others already shining there. The dream fades. The meaning remains. No life exists alone. Every story becomes part of larger stories. Every person leaves traces within others. Memory works this way. The Greeks often imagined the heavens as a place where stories could never fully disappear. Not because people lived forever, because meaning survived. When morning arrives, the world feels unchanged. And yet everything feels different. The journey is complete. You look back toward the lost age before Zeus, and the question from the beginning returns. Did Zeus create a better world, or simply a different one? The answer remains uncertain. Some ancient storytellers would likely say better. Others might hesitate. Historians continue debating how Greek traditions evolved over time. Even the myths themselves preserve multiple perspectives. Perhaps certainty was never the goal. Perhaps the question matters more than the answer, because it invites reflection. What makes a world better? Power, justice, freedom, balance, love, wisdom. Every generation answers differently, and perhaps every generation should. As the day slowly fades into evening once more, you find yourself standing beneath a familiar sky. The same sky that watched over the hidden child on Crete. The same sky that witnessed the fall of Cronus. The same sky that carried storms above Olympus. The same sky that inspired countless prayers, stories, and dreams. Above you, clouds drift peacefully. Beyond them shine the stars. Ancient, patient, enduring. The Greeks looked upward and imagined Zeus there, not merely as a ruler, as a presence, a reminder that order can emerge from uncertainty. That courage can emerge from fear. That responsibility can emerge from power. Whether one believes the myths literally matters less than the truths they explore. Because myths survive when they continue teaching us something about ourselves. And the story of Zeus continues doing exactly that. The hidden child became a king. The king became a guardian. The guardian became a symbol. And the symbol became memory. Now the sacred fires burn low. The sea breeze grows softer. The stars shine a little brighter. The long journey through the lost age before Zeus has finally come to rest. And beneath the quiet heavens of an ancient world where waves whisper against forgotten shores and moonlight touches silent olive trees, the story gently settles into memory, like a dream, like a distant storm long past, like a star still shining long after the night has grown calm.